2020, a year of quarantine, an election year, but more importantly, a year of games. Hello everyone, welcome to Limited Bandwidth's Year of Games 2020. I am Dan Hamilton, creative director here at Limited Bandwidth, and tonight on our panel are our most frequent, most famous, and most favorite contributors, Jason Geitler.
What is up?
And Dwayne McDonald.
Hey, hey, hey.
You threw me off because I both don't have a title, and you came in heavier than 2020 actually did. You're just like, what's up, people? It's 2020, it's dead-ass serious, let's talk about games.
Well, let's get to it. Let's talk about games at Limited Bandwidth's Year of Games. All right, we're back again this year. We've been home a lot, so I think we've played a lot of games. I was kind of comparing this year's to last year's list. And last year I was averaging about one game a month. And then I looked at this year, and I'm averaging about maybe 2 or 3 games a month. And I think that might have something to do with the state of the world that we're in currently.
Dwayne, did you play a lot more games this year, or how do you think you came out?
I think I played about the same. Honestly, I played a couple of new titles this year, but mainly it's a lot of titles from previous years, but I played a little bit of new titles, sure.
And I think that's important. Yeah, I think that's important that we say that, much like last year, the Year of Games is not about the games that came out in 2020. This is not a top 10 list. This isn't a best of list. It's simply what we played this year, and we just want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So to that point, we're going to have spoiler talk. We're going to just talk about these games because this is just what it means to us. It's a hobby. It's a passion, and we just want to put our opinions on the internet.
Yeah, we're just going to say the last line of every game we love. Just the credits, and then we're out.
The friends were the bug snacks we made along the way.
Oh, no. I thought we were going to talk about good games.
Oh, don't worry. That's not in the good game category.
It certainly didn't look like it.
No. All right. So much like last year, we're going to do a round-robin style of discussing games, each person talking about just 2 games this year. We want to keep it shorter from our 5-hour limit. And then we'll get into some group games discussion of games we all experienced before we get into sort of the superlatives, which Jay will host that segment. So up first, we got Dwayne with his one of Year of Games. I don't know, that's not a sentence, but Dwayne, I'll turn it over to you.
Played this year?
Thank you, Jay. You should host this next time.
All right.
All right. I'll start it off with, I did play Doom Eternal when it came out. I believe that was March of this year. Not 100%. I'm pretty sure it was the first quarter of this year.
Who remembers this year? Just we played it this year. We're lucky. We're blessed. Hashtag blessed video games. Tell us about Satan 2, Rise of Satan.
Right.
Doom forever.
I mean, I was obviously interested because I did enjoy the 2016 remake of Doom. Thought it was a great game. Yep. So I figured this would be more of the same. And for the most part, it was. It looks good. I had no technical issues. I haven't beaten the game yet. I've gotten about halfway through, but I'm still kind of playing it here and there. No technical issues. All the weapons are cool to use. They have a nice little weapon upgrade system. It's similar to 2016 Doom. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe you can upgrade weapons, and they brought it over to this game, obviously. You can upgrade the Doom guy's suit. You can get different crazy powers and extra grenades. I'll get into some of that stuff later. But the soundtrack was good. The audio design was good. I think Mick Gordon, he didn't do the whole soundtrack because he didn't have time to do the whole soundtrack. The whole soundtrack for the game.
Was Mick Gordon busy?
So, yeah, I think he was a little busy. I'm over this Doom stuff.
Yeah, I was hearing he kind of snubbed on the contract with Bethesda on that, where he just did and I don't think it was actually for the game soundtrack. I think it was for the mastering of the CD with the special edition. Right. Where he was supposed to deliver 12 tracks and he delivered 6, I think.
So did Mick Gordon write all the sick guitar riffs in Doom 2016 where it's basically a Doom sitcom where Satan's on the radio, and he's like, "You should definitely just plug that in gently." And then the Doom guy just rams it in there like he doesn't give a shit. And then like 3 sick guitar riffs are like, "Wow!" And then you go kill more demons. Is that what Mick Gordon was doing? Was the wow?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, okay, good, great.
But I mean, from what I heard, the soundtrack is good. The audio design is good. I never had a problem figuring out where enemies were because you can hear them. The story, I don't think anybody really plays Doom for the story. Maybe some of you guys do, but the story is basically, I believe in Doom 2016, the UAC base on Mars gets invaded by hells and
that old chestnut.
Right.
yeah, and Doom guys goes and stops and saves the day. But now in Doom
I think
Eternal,
that's based in historical accuracy too.
Yeah, it's the sequel. It's the sequel to The
that really
Martian.
happened.
First, we go to Mars.
Yeah.
We lose someone there, and then we go back and open up hell portals.
Hang on, I don't remember. Was The Rock in Doom 2016? Specifically, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. That The
I
Rock.
don't
Can we
believe
stop the
so.
podcast and just talk about Doom 2005?
No.
He wasn't
Okay.
in
Not
the
what we
movie
wanna
though.
do.
He was in the Doom movie that wasn't great, but
I'm glad you agree. I get flack from some people who tell me the Doom movie's okay.
no. That was not good. I saw it in the theater
Okay.
too. That
Now
was
we're gonna-
sad.
All right,
See, we
back to
fell
Doom
off track
Eternal.
completely.
I actually
So
saw it in the
there's
theater.
a Mars invasion
Yes,
in the
yes,
last
yes,
Doom.
yes. And Doom Eternal, they found they were the Earth, and here comes Doom guy to stop it. And there wasn't really anything bad about this game, but it is more of the same of the 2016 Doom, which is not really a bad thing, but they didn't really do much. They do give you more weapon upgrade variety. There are different enemies, I believe, in this game. They brought back the Pinky, that enemy from the old Doom games, like looks like a little pig or a dog, and he kind of rams you, whatever.
Okay, right.
That was cool. I mean, they brought back some old school enemies that they didn't have in Doom 2016. They brought into Doom Eternal. What else?
I mean, did it feel
But-
like? I mean, you're like they had some new enemies, but like you played it. Like, did it? And you said this. Like you said, it felt a lot like kind of like just more Doom.
Right, and I don't know what it is. I guess it is the wait for a more colorful art style, which is okay. But I noticed that it's a lot of color. When I play Doom, I like the darkness and the very monotone kind of look. I like that in Doom, but Doom Eternal it's a lot of color, which is fine. But it's just kind of, I don't know.
Sure.
That's their design choice they wanted to do.
Here's the thing: Doom has always, I felt, been colorful to me, except for like Doom 2: Hell on Earth back in the day, which had a very like sepia tone to it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until you got to like Hell in the original Doom that it started to get sort of monochromatic, and not like black and white, but like reds and browns and grays and
Right.
dirt colors. Like back on Mars, like that was, you had green acid, you had pink
Yeah.
demons, you had red
And
fireballs, blue
That's
keys.
true. I mean, the original Doom was very colorful with the saying all the blue and the green. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I kind of noticed that going from 2016 to this Doom, and then not that it's a bad game, but like when I play it, I don't really have a motivation to finish the game. It's fun to play little bits and pieces, but I'm like I'll play for an hour and I will play it again for another 3 weeks or so when I want to play more Doom. I don't have any motivation to actually sit there and play it and finish it. But not that it's a bad game, but maybe because I played Doom 2016 and I was like, I'm playing Doom 2016
What
part
do you
2.
think it needed like to get you to have played it more faster to finish it or whatever? What do you think it needed?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Write a letter, dear game developers. This is why you suck.
Damn, it
Dwayne,
better.
2020.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's Doom. You jump around, you shoot demons, you rip their heads off, you cut them in half. I mean, they did introduce a lot of different mechanics into this, which made it a little more fun to play. But For instance, you can set demons on fire with the shoulder mounted flame belch thingy, and that
Sure.
Flame belch. Okay,
that's what it's
all right.
called. It's called a
I
flame
believe you.
belch.
I'm not saying I didn't play it. I don't know.
And it makes the enemies drop armor, so that kind of helps you out. If you're getting beat up and you're getting low on armor, you just set people on fire, you pick up armor. And he has a chainsaw, but I believe in Doom Eternal, when you cut somebody with a chainsaw, they drop a whole bunch of ammo, and that replenishes your ammo, which in 2016, if you cut somebody with a chainsaw, it just kills them. But this game, it actually gives you ammo, which you actually end up needing a lot, because the ammo in this game is pretty scarce. They don't just give you ammo everywhere, so you kind of have to watch what you're doing and with your ammo and stuff like that.
Doom Eternal.
Of course, there's
brought to you by the
upgrades.
makers of Resident Evil.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad, but you do have to watch it.
What about the platforming what about the platforming mechanics? I know when they were showing it off, they're like, "Oh, there's like platforming puzzles now," which always just seemed kind of hinky to me.
There are little secrets in platforming stuff. There's double jumping, there's air dashing, that makes it interesting to, like, when you're in a fight. If you remember you have it, it definitely helps with your mobility, getting around and trying to circle enemies and not getting caught in the corner. And like I did once and I died. It's okay. It's nothing revolutionary. You're just kind of double jumping and air dashing and swinging on poles and stuff like that. It's okay. I mean,
Doom
yeah,
2020.
it's not awesome.
Platforming. It's okay.
But yeah, like, speaking some of the weapons, I believe there is a new weapon, which wasn't in the last Doom. It's a free grenade, because obviously it freezes enemies, and that helps with some of the faster moving enemies, so you can kill them before they kill you. I mean, other than that, you know what is kind of cool in this, which wasn't the last Doom? They have these Slayer gates, and basically you have to, not every level, but certain levels have a Slayer key that's hidden, and once you find the Slayer key, you can open the Slayer gate, and basically it's like a fuck you level because you're in a very small arena, and they just keep pouring enemies in, and you have to survive, and those are pretty tough. Yeah, I've died in a couple, but they just keep pouring enemies in on you. You gotta fight them.
What do you get out of that?
If you get, when you survive and you finish, you get I forgot the name of it. It's a special key. But if you get 8 of those keys, you get a really nice weapon that I also forgot the name of. But supposedly it's some badass weapon. I got 4 of the keys. I don't know. I don't know. You can ask Sora.
The Kiev G9000.
The Key FG? Nice.
Yeah, the Kiev G.
But that's kind of cool to do that. They also have secret encounters, which is basically a time encounter. So once you hit the secret encounter, you have like 30 seconds to kill all the enemies. But if you do that, they give you extra suit points or extra little perks, extra shards. You can upgrade his Doom guy's health. Little channels like that are scattered around, and it makes it kind of fun.
That sounds like a bullet point on the back of a CD case on a computer game back in the 90s with 30 secret encounters. And it's like, whoa!
That's a good point. John Romero loves this.
I mean, other than that, it's Doom Eternal's a good game. It's not a bad game. If you play 2016 Doom, it's just more ramped up, a couple more mechanics. It's fine.
Would you rather go back and play Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal?
I think it's tough because I haven't beaten Eternal yet. I don't know if it gets any better. It's okay so far, but I did like Doom 2016 from start to finish. I guess because it was more fresh, and it was a whole remake, and we haven't seen Doom like this before. It was exciting to see. I mean, yeah. I think Doom 2016 gets my vote for now, but maybe that would change when I finish Eternal. I don't know. but it's okay.
Add more stuff to your games. You know, like if you're gonna make sequels, like it's funny because like I go back to sort of like I don't know what you want to call original Doom, right? But I go back to whatever you think of as kind of like original Doom, where there was Doom and then there was Doom 2, and that was an era of like Quake and Quake 2, and it was like when they made sequels, it was clear that certainly in retrospect, it was clear that they weren't ready to make sequels. They were just like, oh snap, everybody bought this game, we need more levels so we can make Doom 2, right? Doom 2 was like more levels and also we strapped a shotgun on top of this shotgun, so it's super shotgun. You know, it was that level of iteration, which was not, you know, I think what we would expect today. I think we would expect for the most part to see more in a lot of sequels than, oh yeah, we just made some more Doom and we thought, you know, you would give us some money for that. That'd be cool.
I mean, I think essentially that's what it is. It's more of 2016 Doom, you know, a little couple things thrown in here and there. It's fine, it's good. But I feel like if you play 2016, you probably, if you really love the Doom franchise, you'll love Eternal. But I feel like if you play 2016 and you had a good time with it, and you're like, I don't really need more of that. Maybe get Doom Eternal on sale. But it's a good game. But I don't know. It's a hard recommendation for me. And I love Doom, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Is there enough content, and sort of back to Jay's point, where back then, yeah, Doom 1 to Doom 2, it was really more that Doom 2 was an expansion pack. And Doom 1 had their own expansion packs.
Yes.
Like, there was all the episodes of, here's the new levels, like, I can't remember any of their names, so I'll just say, like, Take Me to Hell or whatever
Doom,
was one of them.
Lost Levels.
Yeah, Doom the Lost
That's totally
Levels.
what they were not called.
Doom 2, Hell on Earth was really just more levels, except on an Earth map. But we've kind of moved away from expansion packs in terms of, like, now we have story-length DLC. Does Doom Eternal sort of fit into the mold of a true sequel, or would it have been better serviced as a DLC add-on to Doom 2016?
It should have been DLC, honestly. I felt like that would have definitely... I mean, they wanted to price it as a full-price game, which I get, but I feel like if they just would have maybe did some DLC or not made it as long and just tacked it on to 2016, it probably would have been a cooler, I mean, not more well received, but this is a cool little DLC.
I can't
know.
Wait for the internet reviews of this podcast. Scathing takedown of Doom Eternal. Quote, should have been DLC. It's terrible. We do like video games, I swear.
We do. I like Doom Eternal. I love Doom. I love id Software. I love Doom Eternal. But for me, it's hard to recommend, especially if you play Doom 2016. Just get it on sale or just play your friend's copy or something.
I got a digital version of the PS5. I can't take discs.
Go to your buddy's house, borrow his digital, just steal his PS5. It's the only way you're going to get your hands on one.
All right, I guess we're never getting Bethesda's sponsorship.
Man,
so
they're not going to send you copies of Doom Forever, aka Doom 3, in 2022 or whatever that is.
We're destroying all the goodwill Jay has built playing Fallout 76 these past 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love Fallout 76. Such a good game. We could just talk about that.
But we're not. We're going to talk about your next game.
Game of the year, 2020. Yes, so my game is, speaking of old games that are really good, Demon Souls. So Demon Souls got a remake this year with the advent and launch of the PS5, with the paper launch of the PS5. Should you have been lucky enough to one way or another get your hands on one, Bluepoint, I think it's Bluepoint Software, but whatever, they remade Demon Souls. Demon Souls is a classic PS3. I'm holding this up on my camera so that my boys on camera can see I legitimately own a copy of Demon Souls for the for the PlayStation 3. And the story for me with Demon Souls, like if you've played or heard of the Dark Souls or the Soulsborne series now, right? So very famously, I think more so, Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and now Sekiro, all made by From Software, PlayStation, well, it started out as PlayStation exclusives. They moved on to, I think they're also on PC as well. At least some of them are. Bloodborne, very classically, not on PC. Everybody really wants the Bloodborne remake or the Bloodborne release on PC because one of the things about these games is Demon Souls is the perfect example. So I played through Demon Souls in the last year on emulation on my PC because that version, while rough, is still better than going back and playing it on a physical PlayStation 3. Like, From Software and the stuff that they do with games is honestly very often taxing the system. Like, it's putting the system through some stuff that they're like, I'm not ready for this. So, Demon's Souls, excuse me. Let me make sure I'm saying the right thing. Demon's
Are you even a Souls fan? I mean, come on.
I love Souls. You guys should know this by now. If you don't, I'm sorry, but I love Demon's Souls. And for me, it started way more with Dark Souls. I got into Dark Souls where I think back in the day I bought Demon's Souls. I want to say this is like my third copy because I want to say I like bought it at a GameStop used, played it for a half an hour, was like, I don't get it. This is hard and tough and sucks, and I don't want it. Took it back, traded it in back in the days when you would, go to a physical store, trade games in. Later on, I saw it like on the shelf used. I was like, that looks cool. I'll buy that. And like the same exact thing happened. And then when Dark Souls came out, I actually had a kind of a similar kind of arc with that. And then eventually, once I got into the Dark Souls series and learned about really how to play them and what they expect of you, which is like kind of just to kick you in the nuts constantly, and learn the game so that then you can kick the game in the nuts, so to speak. I really like those games, and they've gotten better at it, right? To you go back to Demon's Souls and you can see the nascent start of some really good systems. Demon's Souls is classic From Software in that you are in human form, you die immediately because like 9 dudes jump out of the shadows behind a corner where in video games no dudes ever live, and you come back and you have half of your health. This is your reward for dying and starting over, is you get to run around with half of your health bar for the rest of the game until you get it back. The game doesn't tell you how to get it back. The game doesn't tell you what the mechanics are of, and the game is very dense. The game's very dense. It has So, anybody that's played Dark Souls and goes, yeah, Dark Souls weird. When you die, you lose your souls and you have to run back to your souls and get your souls. And if you die on the way, those souls are gone and you will never get them back again. And the levels are really long and they're really complicated. And sometimes there's shortcuts that you can open midway through and whatever. And all of that stuff is in this. All of that stuff is in Demon's Souls. And Demon's Souls is great. People wanted that remake for a very long time. So finally, you get this remake. It's on this new system. It's on, the PS5. And it's really kind of like, it showcases the PlayStation 5, right? It showcases the fast load times. Like, you turn on the PlayStation, you go, I want to play Demon's Souls, and you're like, poof, you're just sitting there, and you're like, well, that's super weird, because the From game has never been that optimized. Like, From games, like, go play Bloodborne on not a PS5, and you'll see, like, the load time is like a minute. It's doing a lot of work under the hood, whereas this Demon's Souls, newly remade, they redid the game basically from the ground up, but they did it just lovingly. Like, clearly this was a team that was either chained down and forced to play the original Demon's Souls for 1,000 hours, or they love that game because they're using the same models, they're using the same animations, but everything looks so much better. Like, it just looks incredibly good. It's like it's like the difference of when we were younger and you looked at video games and there was a cutscene, right? So go back and look at original Final Fantasy VII, not that piece of shit they put out this year. But I didn't play it. I'm just kidding. But go back and look at the we love games. Go back and look at the original Final Fantasy VII, right? You would watch the cutscene of that game and be like, "This is the ballerest shit ever." And in your head, that's what that game looks like. But then you play it, and your cloud is like 7 blocks on top of 7 other blocks, and just looks like janky crap. And that's kind of, Demon's Souls doesn't look that bad, but the difference between the original game and the remake is that stark, and it looks that good all the way through. Like, the cutscenes look just as good as the gameplay. The original game suffered from a lot of frame rate issues because it was just trying to do so much. There's very classic sections. If anybody's played Dark Souls and they played through the sewer section, they know that they're like, oh yeah, that frame rate goes to crap and it chugs, blah, blah, blah. You don't know shit. There's a water section in Demon Souls in the, what is it? I think the 5th world, and that thing was hot garbage in terms of, like, you would die as much there to the frame rate stuff as you would to the enemies. Like, it was just that bad. And it's super dark, and the lighting in there didn't work, and it just wasn't great. It was one of the worst parts of that game. And with the remake, like, they're using new lighting techniques. I don't know if it's ray tracing or not, but I mean, they're using new lighting techniques. Light sources throw light. The frame rate holds up. The movement of your character, like, you couldn't get 30 frames, on your rolls and stuff like that. And Demon Souls and Dark Souls, this is a series that, like, frame rate matters because you're dodging a lot. Frame rate matters because here comes a guy with a giant sword and he's going to slash at you, and you need to dive at the right time so he doesn't hit you. And half the time you die is because the frame rate of the game sucked. And, it's frustrating enough, and it's more frustrating when the technology is a part of the problem. And with Demon Souls 5, or Demon Souls 5, that's what it should be called. It's Demon Souls 5, that'd be great. But Demon Souls is just a really great job with the remake. This is the same company that did the Shadows of the Colossus remake, which, a lot of people, again, a lot of the same stuff, right? Original Shadows of the Colossus, really classic, great game. And the remake, they did just a really great, amazing job with it. They do, I don't know what the next thing they need to do is, but, I would give them my trust. They're killing the remakes out there. And I can highly recommend Demon Souls now because it's the least game I would ever recommend anybody play in the Souls series before now. Partially because it's hard to get, partially because it runs like shit, and partially because it's the most obtuse of all of them. It's the least explanatory. It's got some of the worst systems to understand. Demon Souls is the only game that used 2 systems that the other games never used. They're called world tendency and character tendency. And very briefly, the way they work is in each world has a tendency, and it's between total black and total white. And it's a behind the scenes thing that's going on, that all these things you're doing is affecting it. And it never explains how it's happening. So you literally have to go to the internet and be like, how the F does world tendency work? And the most easy ways that it works is if you kill bosses, you move the world tendency toward white. And if you die in human form, where you're resurrected and you have full health, you move the world toward black. And these systems are a huge pain in the ass. They do some subtle things too, where, like, if you're in white tendency, so white tendency is super hard to get to, right? Because you have to kill bosses, either by yourself in the world or with help in the world, or by you getting summoned, because there is PvP and co-op online in this game. This had a co-op system online forever ago. And no one knew how it worked because the game didn't explain it to you. You had to go on the internet and be like, I don't understand how this works. And it's just, again, Google Demon Souls. You really want to find out, the deep levels of stuff. But it was very complicated, but it was also very, very cool, right? So some of the stuff in Demon Souls is if you get certain worlds to all white tendency, there will be items or characters or bosses or bad guys that only exist when the world is 100%, full white tendency or full black tendency. Like, you can get to areas that otherwise didn't exist. It's a very cool system that, like, I don't know, 3% of all the people that ever played Demon Souls saw, because it's so, like, nightmarishly obtuse and doesn't explain any of it to you. And you're busy getting jumped on by, 7 flame-bearing hollows or whatever that are just jumped out of the shadows. And it's the same guy that's killed you 9 times, but you forgot he was there because, you come around that corner 17 times. So, great game. The magic looks cool. They've redone all the effects. They didn't put a lot of new stuff in the game. They put a handful of little new kind of fun stuff in the game.
I was going to ask if they put anything new, or they updated any of the systems to, like, newer Souls games.
Lord, no. So 1 or 2 really good exceptions. So one really good exception is that the later Souls games with PvP, I want to say it started in 3. Might have started in Bloodborne, I can't remember. But either 3 or Bloodborne, maybe it was 2. Some jerk on the internet's going to correct me. Anyway, co-op in the original games, in Dark Souls and in Demon Souls, it pays 0 attention to your friend system. It doesn't care if you have friends online or whatever. So it's totally random. So in Dark Souls in particular, what people used to do was to play with their friends. They would find like a really out of the way area to put their summon sign down, and you'd be on the phone with your buddy and be like, okay, go over here where no one's ever going to go. That's where I put my soul sign. And then it was really hit or miss whether you would even see it. Like you'd have to sit there for 10 minutes as you kind of like cycled through the online servers sort of, and you maybe would see it, maybe wouldn't. With about 3, I want to say they added a password system where you can go in the software and say, oh yeah, my password is, marsupial, and Dwayne puts in marsupial, and then it syncs us up. So it always knows that he's looking to play with me and I'm looking to play with him. Really cool system, really awesome system. And it didn't exist in the original, but Bluepoint has put it in this. So that's really cool, because otherwise, especially now, a lot of, the Dark Souls community has come together and been like, bringing in their friends and bringing in their, other gaming buddies to be like, yeah, play this game. I have a really good friend who only plays Dark Souls because I play, and has only ever played a Dark Souls game with me, like literally with me getting summoned into his game. And then we just play through Dark Souls or Demon Souls or whatever, because I have full knowledge of everything that we're doing. And it's really fun to play that way. So really good system that they added that in. And then they've added a couple items. They've added this, they've added a very tiny area. You can kind of look it up if you want to spoil it for yourself, but they've added a very tiny area for very dedicated people that they can go get a set of armor that did not exist in the original game.
Oh,
go ahead.
I saw something like that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in, but I did see something like that online.
So they've added that, that's a spoiler, I'm sorry, but we said, fuck you, spoilers. But yes, they added in a character set of armor that it's an armor on a boss that exists in the game, but it never existed as you could find and wear that armor in the game. And then they kept a lot of the weird systems, right? So Demon Souls is the only system that ever had armor unique to gender. There's some armor in Demon Souls that if you're a lady, you can wear it. If you're a dude, you literally can't put it on. And vice versa. None of the other games do that. They don't care. So that's this, but this is one that does. And it's kind of interesting that it does that, right? It's just this kind of...
Well, it sounds like they got better, because it seems like they were just going with the gender binary before they went, you know what? Just everything. We don't want to wear everything.
I mean, I agree from a gameplay standpoint, and also from sort of a societally acceptable standpoint. Yes, it did get better. But it's just something that existed in the original game. Like they just had, this, and it was NPC armor that was like, well, this character's a lady. She wears this, suit of armor. So if you're a lady, you can wear it. If you're not, you can't. This guy wears a suit of armor, and it wasn't all that way. Most of it was actually mix and match, but there were like a small handful on either side. They kept that stuff in there, which I think it's true to the original. I'm kind of indifferent about it. It's fine. I think it's whatever, cute that it's in there. If it's a gameplay type that it's not the first one I would play. I would play Dark Souls 3 first, 100% of the time. That game is kind of Dark Souls perfection. They had time to work on that stuff. They had time to work on their lore. Although the thing about Dark Souls that is really good is that it brings in the lore from so many other worlds that they already built on. So, but whatever. From a gameplay standpoint, it was the pinnacle. The nice thing is this is, from a gameplay standpoint, so much nicer than its original version. It is just an incredible step up from, I will never go back and play it on an emulator. It is worth It is one of 2 or 3 things I played on that PS5, and it is the thing I played the most on the PS5, and probably will be for a very long time. Like and I'll play this game over and over and over again because that's me and who I am as a person. But yeah, it was great, and I, I'm super glad they did it. I was super excited when they announced it. I was excited. I was as excited about this as I would have been if From came out tomorrow and was like, yeah, we know about Elden Ring, but guess what? We're making Bloodborne 2, or, like we're making Bloodborne, Dark Souls 4, which wouldn't make any sense. But I was just as excited for this when I saw that. I forget where we were, but we saw that trailer when, 2 seconds into that trailer, I was like, that's Demon Souls. And, you couldn't talk to me for an hour because I was like bouncing off the walls. It was just so exciting. And yeah, I think it totally lived up to it. No complaints, no it's hard, you know. It's a real asshole of a game. But other than that, you know, no complaints. They did a great, perfect job with that. 10 out of 10 would Demon's Souls again.
Now, on that comment,
Yeah.
before we move on to anything, I love when you jump into games. You're clearly very passionate about the games you do pick for this list, so we didn't interrupt you as much.
I'm sorry.
As we could. No, it's
I don't
fine.
pause to take a breath.
But to that point of talking about a game that has been remade from the ground up,
Yes.
you know,
But it
only
was
just
good
played the-
originally, Dan. That's the difference.
It was good. Oh, that's the difference. Because I'm thinking back to last year when you wouldn't let Dwayne or I get a word in edgewise about Resident Evil 2 being one of the better games of last year. Here you are stroking the stick from Software and Bluepoint for this exact remake of Demon's Souls, but with better frame rates.
From Software, give us a sponsorship.
Well, my memory of that is that I very respectfully listened to you talk about Resident Evil 2 and how much you guys loved it. My take was that I didn't enjoy Resident Evil 2 very much the first time and wondered, you know, it's different for me. You know, I think that they did a great job with Resident Evil 2 last year. I gave you guys a lot of shit about that. You're right. But I did, at the end of the day, think they did a really good job. I just, you know, for me and my type of game, like, you could make the best Resident Evil game ever. And maybe they did. To me, I'm like, you know, I don't care about Mr. X. Like, he can eat one. You know, like, I didn't like it the first time. I definitely don't like it this time, you know, like, whatever. And I think there's plenty of people, like, there's, you know, here's the thing, right? If you didn't, it's the exact same corollary. If you didn't like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 2 remix or redo or whatever they called it wasn't going to win you over, right? It wasn't the version that was going to be like, this fixes everything. It doesn't. If you didn't like Demon's Souls on PlayStation 3 or wherever you played it and don't like Dark Souls and don't like Bloodborne, like, don't go play Demon's Souls. You are going to have a bad time, bro. Like, I have bad news for you. This game is built to just cornhole the piss out of you and not tell you how to do stuff and not walk you through games. But if this is a game that either you did like or you like that series, but you were like, well, I don't have a PlayStation 3 and they never remade it, or I have a PlayStation 3 and I played it for 7 minutes and that version of it, you know, going back from Dark Souls or Bloodborne was super hard because those games are much more, you know, they allow you to be much more twitchy. They're still deliberate, but you know, the controls are better or whatever the case may be. That stuff's fixed now. You know, that stuff's, you're not going to die because of the technology. You're going to die because the game's created that way, right? And I think I think it's a very similar argument. I'll give you full credit. That is a very similar argument. If you like it, you're going to like it. And if you've never played it, but you're okay with that series, and this is like your chance to jump in, you know, totally do that. You know, high recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair, and I think that's a good point to end on.
If you
Demon's
like Resident
Souls.
Evil 2, you can eat a fat one.
Before we end, I just want to, you already kind of mentioned it. I just want to ask you a quick question. Will we ever get a Bloodborne 2 in your opinion? Because just for me, Bloodborne is my favorite Souls game. I mean, I've played Demon's Souls. I played some of the Dark Souls games. I try to get into them. They're okay, but I don't know. Maybe I lose interest. I don't know. But Bloodborne definitely hooked me in because I feel like it's very fast-paced, offensive game, and I like that. You have to be very aggressive. So do you ever think From Software will ever give us a Bloodborne 2?
I mean, I'm with you in that I hope so.
Yeah.
I more and more think no, because watching their progress into Sekiro and now into Elden Ring, I think they're very interested in trying new things. You know, I think they probably loved the experiment of Bloodborne. To them, the experiment, right? They went from Dark Souls to, like, technically they didn't really do Dark Souls 2. Technically, Dark Souls is not a Miyazaki game. I think From still did it, but it's not a Miyazaki game. And it's, I like it, but a lot of people don't. Dark Souls 3, I think, was Miyazaki being like, I don't want to do Dark Souls anymore, but I'm going to go, you know, ham sandwich. And then I think, From Software going and doing Bloodborne in between those two things, I feel like that must have been hugely like exciting and freeing for them, because then they went off and did Sekiro, and now they're clearly working on Elden Ring, which is its own thing. I just think, I wish they would. I'm with you 100%. I don't know that they will. It seems less and less likely. That also may or may not be Sony exclusive, which may also limit them, license wise. I don't actually know, and I don't have access to the contracts, and I'm not going to look it up. I don't care. But I worry that that's a thing, that they're like, oh, if we can only do it on Sony, like Sekiro has been so big on so many different platforms that I think that they like doing new stuff.
That's cool. I mean, definitely get that, because new IP, new. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one franchise or one series. You have to keep.
I do, because we just want to play one series. But like, I don't know, man. The Destiny guys are going to make Destiny for the rest of their lives. So I'm not a game developer. I don't know, how you either get or keep your motivation. But like, plenty of a bajillion gamers would buy Bloodborne too, were it to come out. So I think the impetus is there. But if whatever either the contract or the desire situation is, I guess we don't know.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's probably a backroom thing that we don't know about. That's probably why
that'll come out unannounced randomly.
Tweeted From Software, kids. Go to your tweeter machines.
Talk about it at next year's Year of Games.
The good news is that Bloodborne apparently plays super awesome on the PS5. So as more of those get out into the wild, and it's well, ideally you own it digitally like I do, and you can just bring it over to your PS5. Like that's going to be a 2021 playthrough for me, 100%.
Cool. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of PS5s, speaking of the limited number of games on them currently for originals, because the PS4 library is like still accessible through it.
Zing. Thousands of games.
I'm going to go cry. I don't have one yet. I'm going to go cry now.
Dwayne, tune out. I'm going to spoil all of this next game.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. You can spoil
Dwayne, come on over. Bring the COVID, and you can sit on my couch and play
Florida COVID.
Play my PS5.
Spider-Man Miles Morales. So this year, there wasn't really any game that I was like super stoked for, super ready for. Like, I take a look at the list of games I played, and it was really just Resident Evil 3 because of Resident Evil 2 last year. That was really it wasn't my jumping in point into the series. I played Resident Evil 5, I played a little bit of 7, I played some of the Gaiden games, and I've like touched a little bit of Resident Evil 1 and 3 on PS1 at friend's house. But like 2 was really like my deep dive into this experience. And so I was super excited for the remake of 3. We'll get into my feelings about that later on. But that was really the only thing going for me this year until June at the PlayStation Experience. And this is where we saw Demon's Souls. You were asking about that, Jay, of when we all saw it.
Yep.
When they said, hey, we're making Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I loved Spider-Man 2018 for the PS4. That was my Year of Games 2018, a podcast we didn't do. That was my like choice. This is like recommended. Beautiful game, fun to play. Over and over, let's go. So I've been looking forward to a sequel to that. This is sort of an interquel. It's not a very much true sequel. It's its own sort of side story featuring Miles Morales as Spider-Man. And it is really, really good. It's good at what it does, but this is sort of combining what we just talked about with Doom Eternal and with Demon's Souls. From a Doom Eternal angle, Spider-Man Miles Morales, if it wasn't 2020, if we were still in the expansion pack era, would be a story mode DLC, a story-length DLC to the main game. And then from the Demon's Souls aspect of it, though, it is definitely something that is a visual treat. It pushes the system it's on. I don't even know if it's to its limit, because this is something that just came out. We don't know the limits of these PS5, but
we hope don't. It's not to the limit.
Yeah, like, oh, there you go.
I just bought this thing.
But it shows like what the original game, and there's a remastered version of the original game, which also uses the same technologies as this interquel, I'll keep calling it, that really showcase the current power of the PS5, the ray tracing aspects of it, the load time aspects of it, which is what I'm going to focus on at the beginning, because when I first booted up the game, it asked me, do you want to run it in performance or fidelity? And performance is going to have ray tracing on, it's going to have all the DLSS like configurations in the back end on. You can't like pick and choose. It's just like, here's our preset for performance, and you get fidelity is what I meant. Fidelity is what's doing ray tracing and all of that stuff, but you're locked in at 30 frames. Performance is saying, okay, we're turning off ray tracing, we're going to turn off some elements, and then we're going to do this at 60 frames. And at fidelity mode, the ray tracing in this is insane because it's Spider-Man. You're web zipping through New York. Every building has glass panels. Every single one of those glass panels has like in real time reflections. It's like absolutely mind boggling how that is working in 2020 on a consumer grade console, not even a high end PC, a consumer grade console. And I highly recommend that the first time you play it on fidelity mode just to see how in depth the character models are, the in game character models, the cutscene character models, the ray tracing, the snow effects, because there's tons of snow effects because it's a Christmas game. It's the only game on this list that's a Christmas game because that's when it takes place. And then when you go back on it, when you play it your second time, because you have to play it a second time to get everything you want out of the game if you're going for trophies like I did. And don't worry, it's not going to take that long. But then you play it on performance mode because you've already seen everything in the way it was meant to be seen. And now you're doing it at a very crisp, very cool 60 frames a second. I know since I beat it, they did release a new version called, I think it's Performance RT, so Performance Ray Tracing, which has the benefits of 60 frames and also some form of ray tracing. I haven't played it yet because I finished the game, so I uninstalled it. So I gotta go back and maybe play that during my break.
Because also the hard drive space on a PS5 isn't super huge either.
Yeah, the hard drive is very, very small at the size of games.
PS5, not exactly game of the year.
But the other thing with it I mentioned was load times and that sort of performance. So with Spider-Man with PS4, there isn't a lot of load times. You're typically out in the city, swinging around, but there's clear segments in the game that are hiding or masking load times. Like, okay, you're going into a cutscene, they're actually loading in a new world state for this next portion of the game. With this one, the seamless transition between gameplay and cutscene is kind of actually showcasing that the world is constantly moving. They're not really needing to change save states, and when they are, it's incredibly fast because there are these like very quick cutscenes that are doing the same masking effect. Whereas in Spider-Man 2018, they were longer. This is just like a really quick, hey, we went into a cutscene where you're saying hello to a deaf girl who's doing graffiti, and now we're back out and we're back into the gameplay. So that was clearly doing a quick load transition for world state, but like it's quick. It's really, really quick. And additionally, with the fast travel sequence, there's actually an option in the game to turn off the subway load screens. So in the original game, if you fast travel, they do a nice little cute cinematic for the load screen where Spider-Man is on a subway car, checking his phone, talking to a guy dressed up in a shitty Spider-Man costume, because that's what they're doing to like keep you immersed in the game. It's like, hey, we're doing a load screen, but the world's still moving. Right. And in this game, the load times for fast travel are so quick, that's disabled. And they're like, hey, we had people work on this. If you want to see it, you can go and re-enable it. But otherwise, like, you're just causing the game to be longer for yourself. There's really no reason.
If you want to see Diversity Spider-Man ride the train, we got that for you.
But the performance is really strong. I'm not even acknowledging that comment.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, probably.
Fix it in post.
There's no fixing that.
There's no fixing in post. There's no fixing Jay.
Yeah, I'm sorry for who I am as a person.
The gameplay is fine. It's the exact same. I wouldn't even say it's the exact same as Spider-Man 2018. You kind of come into it with less of Peter Parker's power set, but you have more of his movement from the base game, because in the base game you have your 3 skill trees, your combat, web slinging, and then stealth, I think was the third one. Whereas in this one, it's still 3 trees, but it's more like upgrade your combat, upgrade your gadget building, and upgrade your venom strikes, because Miles Morales has the zappy stuff. And then the web swinging stuff, you get like special bonuses to it if you do some side missions. But otherwise, you're like, your move set is very much fluid. And so Don, who's not on this podcast, is telling me, hey, Spider-Man moved really slow in the old game, and I think he was going back to maybe a not completed file. I'm not sure, because I know once you unlock everything in 2018, you're just web zipping around. Mm-hmm. But in this game, like, once you get control of Miles, you're pretty. He's still Spider-Man in training, but it's like, man, you're moving pretty acrobatically and pretty with finesse to be someone who's still just sort of a scrub Spidey. The story of the game is pretty good. It's we're going through how Miles sees himself as Spider-Man. Peter Parker has to go to Europe. He has to go away. So there's only one Spider-Man in the city, and that's Miles Morales. And it's supposed to be a pretty simple Christmas season, but then of course supervillains attack. And the real supervillain was gentrification the entire time.
Oh,
God damn it, gentrification.
damn!
We talked about this.
It's pretty well done. Miles has a pretty good arc in it outside of exploring Spider-Man. It's also exploring, how he identifies himself. His arch enemy is the Tinkerer, who's typically not an arch enemy of Spider-Man. I kind of like how they worked with that in this game, because typically that's like a C, D tier level Peter Parker Spider-Man villain who's usually like an accomplice to the main villains. In this one, they made the Tinkerer their own thing, who's actually an accomplished threat, and they turned him into a Miles rogue, which I think is a good way if you're using these sort of legacy characters to move villains around instead of making like
we don't want to talk about Spider-Man villains.
Okay. Well, then I'll say there's
how bad Spider-Man villains are in general.
The twist of the villain is unfortunately was spoiled on me, not by anyone but myself, because I recognized the villain's name, so to speak, and I went, oh, that's okay. Luckily, the game doesn't waste too much time on it. We kind of get that reveal maybe about 30 minutes later into the actual gameplay, and then you move about the story. And the story is...
I just want to interrupt you on that because, so there's a parallel there that I kind of want to ask about. So, Spider-Man 2018, definite spoilers if anybody didn't finish that game. Dr. Octopus is in that whole game.
Yep.
You are looking at that beady-eyed son of a bitch the entire time. You know who he is. You know who he's going to wind up being.
Yes.
I don't know who played all of Spider-Man 2018. I want to meet the precious child who played Spider-Man 2018, got all the way to the end, and then Doc Ock breaks bad, and he's like, no, my hero, Mr. Octavius. But the rest of us who've known Spider-Man our whole lives were like, this dude is eventually going to have 8 arms and come directly at us. So I guess that being the thing, and we all thought that, well, okay, I shouldn't say all, but I mean, almost universally that we thought that was handled super well, right?
Right.
Like, everybody was like, oh, that was great, Like, the whole game, I'm waiting for Dr. Octopus. I'm waiting for Otto Octavius to snap, and he never does. But then he does, and it's super great, right? Like, so I guess, it sounds like they weren't able to make that happen here.
No, I think they were. And I think really it was my knowledge of the Spider-Man mythos, my knowledge of the Spider-Man universe that spoiled it for me, because I think that's why they chose a C, D level tier villain like the Tinkerer to be the main baddie, because I feel like they knew a lot of people weren't as familiar with him. He's not, again, one of the people we parade around like Green Goblin, like Venom, like Otto Octavius, like Rhino or Scorpion or Mysterio. I've up to a Sinister 6 villains I just named.
Okay, that is
never
been
them all.
the Sinister 6. You take that back. I won't stand for that.
Whereas the Tinkerer, again, like if you don't know the Tinkerer, yeah, it can be a surprise. And I think that's what they were going for. But again, the story, and this is sort of a detriment to the game, is really quick. And this is where it comes back to, it's an interquel. It should have been a story DLC. I understand they were pushing it for the power of the PS5. I could see them maybe just have really pushing a Spider-Man remaster for the PS5, and then saying, also, you get Spider-Man Miles Morales. They flipped it in how they sold it. They went Spider-Man Miles Morales, and also you can get Spider-Man remaster for PS5. That's probably the smarter decision. But that's not the reality of the situation of what it actually is, because you can beat that story in about 5 to 8 hours, and that's sitting through every cutscene, that's doing every side mission, doing every collectible mission, 8 hours max. I beat that. And then if you want to go platinum it for 100%, you start a new game plus, so you have all of your abilities unlocked. You don't need to do every side mission again. You just need to beat the story and collect enough ability points, which you will do naturally through the story, to get the rest of your trees complete. And that only takes about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours, because you've already completed the story. You can skip cutscenes. You don't need to worry about the twists. You don't need to go over to get everything. It's just go through the story, you've beat it again. And that was kind of upsetting for me, because again, this was the only game once I saw it that I was super excited for, and I beat it in about 15 hours. Now, luckily, it wasn't a full price game. It was a $40 game, which is kind of like an expansion pack price, again, kind of going to what it really is. And I still enjoyed my time with it. I still liked it. I still kind of want to go back to it and play around with it a bit more in that performance RT mode. But there isn't really any sort of end game content. There isn't really anything to make you go back to it once you 100% it, even once in just a story mode, not even platinuming it. Whereas with Spider-Man 2018, if you weren't a crazy person like me who was purposely doing everything in order to get 100% and then doing the DLC missions and doing all that, if you just played the story straight, there was plenty of activities to go back to and play as Spider-Man. There was a lot of longevity in that game. I just spent it all, playing it night after night after night when that first came out. It took me about 3 weeks, but there's probably about 60, 70 hours racked up in that game. This game, I played every night for a couple weeks, still sub 15 hours. So that's kind of like my only downside on the game. I would still recommend it if you have a PS5. Again, it's a budgeted title, $40, shows off some great power in the tools for open worlds. Excited to see how we use those tools within the system moving forward for ray tracing. But other than that, yeah, just pretty short.
Do we know what it costs? Let's say you're not in the PS5. Let's say you're Dwayne.
Wow.
Dwayne's got his PS4. Very happy over there with it. Do we know? Does it cost $40 on every platform? Is it the same?
I don't know. I know it plays like garbage on the PS4. I'll say that.
Oh, it does? Okay. I was going to say, I thought we were going to have something for Christmas for Dwayne, but maybe not.
No, I did hear that. I heard it wasn't great on PS4, so I'm just gonna wait. Yeah,
I mean, that's disappointing.
Yeah,
it's tough enough with the value proposition for like.
It's the same price. It's the same price on PS4.
Oh, okay. Well, Sony, what are you doing? come correct, guys. Come on.
Come on, shake
stop
$20.
Stop making video games on old platforms not play good.
Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah.
That's apparently the other move in 2020.
We'll get there.
We'll talk about that later.
Sony's not going to brand. Sony's not going to. Speaking of games that. So okay, Dan, where are you at with Spider-Man?
Like I said, I think I was there. I recommend it if you have a PS5. Don't pick it up if you have a PS4. If you're a big Spider-Man fan, I'm sorry that the spoiler is going to be ruined for you in the first couple hours of the game. Otherwise, enjoy it.
Wait, the spoilers in this?
I hate you so much.
I knew it.
It's got a really good societal story about, again, gentrification is really sort of the arc villain of the tale, with just the supervillain being in the background, which makes a lot of sense considering where we are in New York and the character we're playing with Miles Morales and how that affects black people and people of color and minorities, and much different than the privileged world of Peter Parker. Yes, Peter Parker is a struggling student. He can't pay bills, but, you look at his apartment, he's still living like on a high-rise apartment. Mary Jane has like a 3-bedroom apartment. And it's just like, okay, there's some disparity between Peter Parker Spider-Man and Miles Morales Spider-Man. Let's actually address that and talk about that, which is a good change of pace. I'm glad they went in that direction, as opposed to, I guess I'll say, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which they were really exploring different Spider-Man and anyone can be the Mask, but this Spider-Man was going to, we didn't really see that aspect of Miles' life. We were really focusing on him embracing the spider powers, and he was still going to Vision's Academy, where he was living at a boarding school, essentially. Like, I think only the first 5 or 10 minutes and then like 2 minutes with the Prowler were really looking at the dichotomy of that life, whereas this one is really kind of putting it into the main focus. So
I do think it's nice to see that, like, I loved, Into the Spider-Verse, but it's trying to do kind of multiple things. It's trying to tell an origin story. It's trying to tell this multifaceted or just about all these different dimensional, Spider-Men and have some fun, or spider beings, let's say, because they weren't all males. But Miles is a character, and I think that I've only played about 3-4 hours of this so far. But that being said, Miles is a character that they can do other stuff with, right? Like, Peter Parker explores what it's like to be a kind of like white guy in New York down on his luck. And, the Peter Parker luck is sort of legendary, right? And it's like, despite the, Peter Parker, who he is as a character, is like constant struggle bus, even though he's got spider powers. Like, that's the story of Peter Parker going back and through all time. Like, there's no Peter Parker So much so that in the comic book world, and we don't want to fall down this hole, but like so much so that once Peter Parker had it good enough in the comic
Please stop,
books,
because he ended up having like a multi-billion-dollar corporation in the early 2010s.
right? But here's the thing, right? So much so that once he had it good enough, like they took it all away from him. Like they had to take special steps to be like, no, Peter Parker's got it too good. We gotta start over, right? We gotta revamp Peter Parker. So anyway, my point is like I think Miles Morales, and in this game, it offers this opportunity to show not just mini Spider-Man, right? It's not just like, oh, these are the adventures of little Spider Kid. These are adventures of a young man really living a different path, really living a different lifestyle, depending on Miles comes from, he's not an orphan, but typically one of his parents is dead. Depends on which media you're watching. Doesn't always happen that way. But he's also a mixed race person, so they can tell these stories that are about, this story is about, like Dan said, it's about gentrification. It's a white villain where part of that villain's whiteness is part of the issue, not necessarily like, hey, because he's white, he's a bad guy, but because of privilege and because of bias and because of things like that. And I just think it's a really cool opportunity to tell a very different type of story, and that, Into the Spider-Verse didn't necessarily tell that story because it's busy trying to tell 3 other stories, right? It's trying to tell, Jake Johnson's Spider-Man story. It's trying to tell Miles' origin story. It's trying to tell, all these other things. And this is really just trying to focus on Miles and his family situation and stuff, or really able to. And I think that that's really cool, right? I think that that's awesome. I would like to see I would have liked to see a longer version too, right? I would have liked to see a whole thing that's not, here's 5 hours or 4 hours of meaningful.
Yeah, I would have loved to see a fully fleshed out version of Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I think the team did as well as they could. I know it's sort of almost like the B team over at Sucker Punch. No, it's not. It's Insomniac. Who the heck made this game?
I think it's Insomniac.
It's Insomniac because they make Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
Because they're split between making the full-fledged Spider-Man 2. They're making the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. They're also making Spider-Man Miles Morales. So I know that they're pulled in a lot of different directions, and that's great that company can do that. But I would have liked to see more focus into this.
So let's prognosticate again. Does Spider-Man 2 split time between Peter Parker and Miles Morales?
Yeah, 100%. They will do that.
Do you want it to?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I would love to see a bit more diversity in the skill set and moveset of both characters, because there were some times in this one where I was like, oh, this is just them remapping the Peter Parker moves onto Miles, with the exception of the Venom abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But back to your point where you were going with the stories, I think that's all I have to say on Spider-Man Miles Morales. But if you want to talk about racists, let's talk about all of the ghosts who killed Dwayne in Phasmophobia.
Racist ass ghost.
Phasmophobia, most racist ghosts of 2020.
Do you like that? You like that segue?
Oh, that
was perfect.
Sharp right there.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dwayne.
I was going to a couple of things about it. I mean, obviously, it's a great concept for a game. I think games like this before have existed, but the way they kind of put this game together, I liked it. I thought it was going to be silly at first, but when we actually started playing, I'm like, this is actually pretty good. There's a lot of replayability with the different ghosts and the different tools you can use, and the sound design. I love the whole walkie-talkie aspect. That was really cool. The levels were good. The houses and the school, the asylum, hospital, wherever else we went. I thought it was good. And all the different encounters can get pretty tense. Obviously, it's a game you want to play with friends,
Can you
guess you can play it alone.
solo? Like, how does that work?
There are certain maps that you can play solo. I know I've seen that where it's like recommended players for this map 1 to 2, and I'm like, who's doing this by themselves? What
I don't know.
Yeah.
Loser is playing Phasmophobia by themselves?
Listen, I'm not trying to judge people's lifestyles, but I'm too scared of Phasmophobia to be playing by myself. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, you could play with 2 people. I can see that, but just playing by yourself, I don't think. If you want, you do what you want. That's cool, but the enjoyment of this game comes from playing with actual live human, and oh shit, what do we do? I gotta go here. I heard this over here. That's kind of the excitement.
So we all played this together. Like we all played this together.
Yes.
Did anybody play this not with us and the late
No.
Don Miller, R.I.P.
No, I've only played it with you guys.
Okay, yeah, so
No.
same, right? I've never played it, so but yeah, so we played this as a group, and like we kind of had the best time. Like, I mean, I think that helps. I definitely think that I have read about, and I know that some people are playing it like with randos on the internet, which I couldn't do. Like, I don't know about you guys.
Not in the slightest.
I mean,
I hate
I
multiplayer
heard
games pretty much.
I heard they have like a Discord where people can go in there and talk. Hey, anybody want to play? But I think the enjoyment of this game comes from playing with people you're at least acquainted with and you kind of know. So you know their personality, you know how to mess with them in the game if you want to be an asshole or whatever. It's stuff like that. That
Dwayne,
just
we've been acquaintances for 4 years.
I'll lock you right in that house.
Yeah, we don't care. I'm gonna leave y'all to die.
No, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'd say you're right, like, and it's also sort of like that's where there's no stakes. You know what I mean? Like, there's no serious stakes there where like the four of us aren't gonna. It's not a Monopoly game where when you do lock us in the house and one of us dies, we're like, that's it. We're not talking to Dwayne anymore. It's like we're gonna laugh about it. We're gonna laugh and be like, that's funny. Did you see Jay die? That banshee really killed him immediately. Look at his jank ass body on the floor.
Look at Jay pick up a shoe in trying to defend himself.
Oh, you know what? Oh, that's the later category. You found my answer that I didn't have one for, and now I do.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Janky, though some of
Yes.
those animations are very janky. I'm pretty sure they're going to work on it and update it, but those animations, it's very
it is
It's
janky.
early
early
access,
access.
right?
Yeah, it's early access.
It's early. It's early. Yeah, I'm not going to rag them.
But I'm not going to defend him. That game looks like balls. Like, every aspect of this game, like, I totally recommend it with a group of people, like, that you're friends with, like, 100%. But buy it on sale. Do not expect this to be a good, quote unquote, technical experience, because it is janky. It looks questionable. It doesn't work. Like, the ghost could have a sign that says IR Banshee on it, and you put in Banshee, and then when the mission ends, it would be like, that was a Wraith, and you're like, what the I don't get it. Like,
I think the game has a lot of good bones. There's a lot of good, like, ideas to it.
Right.
They just didn't put any muscles or skin on it. And just to give a quick to anyone who's listening to this and hasn't played Phasmophobia, just very brief, because we're talking about the game but actually haven't described what the fuck the game is.
Oh, good
You
point.
play as a bunch of ghost hunters, like the TV show Ghost Hunters, where it's like a bunch of like middle-aged white guys from Connecticut who are like, we believe in ghosts, and the ghosts are real. And
yes,
you're
except
using like
the
their
ghosts are
techniques.
real, by the way.
Yes, the ghosts are real. And you're using like, oh, I'm going to put like salt down like it's supernatural, or I'm going to use a camera, I'm checking EPV levels, I'm checking heat signatures, like, and you're doing that to find out what kind of ghost it is, so that you can tell that to the real ghost team who will then expunge the ghost.
Right.
And I like to think that that's the Ghostbusters, like we're just like the interns for the Ghostbusters, like we're not going to figure out it's a level 7 class phantasm. Like, you go do that shit and then we'll come bust it, but the problem is the ghosts can kill you, and that's not always great. So that's what Phasmophobia is. But back to my sentence, I thought it was a really good structural game in terms of like the ideas of like how to capture. It's a puzzle game pretty much. It's a first person puzzle game of where is the ghost? How do I find the ghost? How do I get the ghost to come out so I can see what it does? I saw what it does. What does that mean in terms of what type of ghost it is? Because that's the overall goal. You want to find out what ghost it is and then get the fuck out before it kills you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only other thing I didn't really like about the game was it could have been something on my end.
Was it the
like
race thing?
Some of the
Where all the ghosts killed only you half the time?
Yeah. That's actually what we were referencing when we started talking about this. It's like, Dwayne died a lot more than the rest of us. We don't know why that happened.
about 2 or 3 times. It wasn't that much, but some of the tools in the game were hard to use. I don't know if I was doing it wrong. The spudge sticks.
Oh, that's to the jank. That's to the jank we're talking. No,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
It's just jank, right?
And the
But
and the explanation, right? There's not explanation of it.
right.
There's not a lot of places or any place in game that I can recall that you can go that says, okay, to use a smudge stick, it says what the smudge stick does, right? It says, like, when you go to buy it, it says, oh, this cleanses the room of certain types of spirits. You go, oh, okay, great. You buy a smudge stick and you don't buy a lighter, like, you're effed. You legitimately can't use that thing because you need a lighter to light the smudge stick, which in real life makes sense, but also doesn't make sense in any of the rest of the game, right? Like, you can buy a crucifix, and the crucifix wards certain types of ghosts. But in every movie you've ever watched, like, you hold the crucifix and you go, like, get away from me, ghost. And in this game, they expect you to throw the crucifix at the ghost. and run. I don't know. I still don't know to this day. Like, it is very inconsistent in terms of what it wants you to do, and it is not explanatory in any way. Like, there's no guide that you can go to, and when you do go to the guide, like when you go to the book and you go, hey, a wraith, they give you a book, and the book says, wraiths do X. Wraiths are, they float, they go through walls, they will not hunt you in the dark.
They hate Jesus.
They hate Jesus. So, a crucifix will stop a wraith from attacking for a short period of time or whatever. And you go in there and everything else you see is like, oh, yes, this must be a wraith. So I'm going to throw this, I'm going to wing this crucifix at him or whatever. And, like, he kills Dwayne. Like, this is the way it goes. Like, no respect for the crucifix whatsoever. That is a game in which we multiple times would be like, we're trying our hardest to be very organized and say, there's 4 of us. And so, hey, you take a camera, you take a crucifix, you take some lighters, you take this flashlight. And then when all of that comes against the face of, oh, we definitely think it's this, when he comes in the room, Dan, throw the crucifix, he'll book it out, Dwayne, take a picture. And if that worked, it would have been twice as amazing as anything we ever did in that game. And it mostly didn't work because... Yeah,
I'll take a picture of the ceiling.
But you throw the crucifix and he'd walk right through it, and, he'd be killing a guy in a different room. It was just, it's very...
Yeah, I remember an experience where me and Dwayne were the only ones in the house, in a hallway with, I think it ended up being a demon, and I just kept throwing the crucifix, and not, like, it would spawn, I would throw it, and then it would just despawn, but it wasn't because of the crucifix, because we needed that as an action item. Yes. It was like, get the crucifix to ward off the ghost. I'm like, throw it. It disappeared. Did it work? No. You call into the truck. Hey, did it work? No. It's like, what the fuck is with this game? And then it would kill Dwayne. And it was just like, well, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that'll be interesting to come back to in the next year. I think the group of us, if we wait a couple months and come back to it and see, like, where are they at, in the springtime? Where are they at, after a couple more major patches? I think I definitely foresee us going back to it and being like, yeah, let's put a night in. Let's see how it is. And it was fun. It's still kind of a good time, but a good portion of it is definitely the fun that you bring with yourself. If it's not the 4 of us making fun of these, animated models that literally bend at the waist so you can bend them all the way backwards, and everybody's like limboing around the screen. Like, that's half the fun for us, is like, oh, if I hit the crouch button a lot, it looks like I'm twerking on Dwayne. Like, that's our fun, so if they take that out, we may actually, if they have good models when we go back to that game later, we're going to be sort of bummed.
Yeah. Where's the jank?
Yeah, we need some more jank, guys. Put it back. How do I revert to version 1.0?
Yeah, it's cool. I definitely recommend it with friends. I mean,
the real ghosts were the friends we found along the way. No, it doesn't.
Well, the real ghost was the one that whispered in my ear, freaked me out.
Yeah, I guess we should say that. Like, audially?
It was good. The sound was good.
Auditorily? Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah.
And it uses it too. Like, part of the mechanic is that you're supposed to talk to the ghosts. Like, part of the mechanic is that you're supposed to use the ghost's name, and the game's supposed to recognize and sort of like key on that person and either, do some poltergeist stuff or
if
something
it's
else.
A ghost that responds, not every ghost will talk to you, and that's part of the mechanic.
True.
But yeah, sometimes you will say, like, hey, Jason Jeitler, are you with us? And if you're holding the device that communicates with ghosts, it'll just go,
like, yes, I'm behind
you. I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
And that'll happen right in your ear. It'll be just like,
yeah, it freaks you out.
Adult. I don't know why it says adult, but that's one of the words. That's one of the in-game words.
And I'm like,
but-
oh my god, guys, talk to me, get back to the truck.
And when it
We're just
doesn't work and doesn't work and doesn't work and doesn't work, and then the first time you hear it and it works, it's
freaks you out.
effective. It scares the
Yeah.
crap out of you. Like,
Yeah.
it's very effective.
It literally I was like, oh my god, I'm going back to the truck.
And the other good thing it does with the audio that Dwayne was talking about earlier was the walkie-talkie or the global voice system. It's not clearly the first game that's used a global voice system. Like, it's definitely a game you don't want to play in a Discord chat or a Zoom call or Vent if you're still using Vent. It's something you want to be in the game and using their in-game audio because you have two forms of, okay, if I'm standing right next to Jay, I can hear him. But if he walks into another room, he's either going to be very muffled or I can't hear him at all. So then I have to pull out my walkie-talkie and talk to him through that. And I think that's very effective to get you into the mindset of being in these spooky Midwestern houses.
Yes, they use positional audio in that way very, very well. With the exception of it's also broken because
Yes.
like it works great when you're in the same room or you're two rooms apart. One of the places that it falls apart is, the school, right? So the school is a very big building.
Oh,
Or the what was the other one? The insane asylum.
the asylum? Yeah.
So, and I didn't want to be in either one of those buildings. They're too big. I didn't want to do it. It sucked. But, when Dwayne and I are over here and we're exploring a classroom and Dan and Don are upstairs and we know they are all the way across the school because, we're on the walkie-talkies and we're talking back and forth and we're doing whatever. But then you get off the walkie-talkie and you would hear Dan and Don talk to each other. And it sounded very far away, but not as far away as they actually were. Like they were literally across the building and I'm like, okay, why are we using the walkie-talkies? This is a little bit of the jank showing through even in that where it's like, they need to get that cleaned up as well. But that was personally very funny to me was you would get off the walkie-talkie and then immediately I would hear you guys talking about whatever you're talking about. And I'm like, aren't they all the way across the school? Like, what is going on
What's
right
funny to that example, and I don't think we talked about this, is that this is like a post-stream discussion, is that was not happening in the reverse to us. Like, we couldn't hear you two at all. So I think that was definitely something with just, like, again, it's a jank thing. It didn't affect you. It did affect you, but it didn't affect us. So
Okay. Well,
because we were talking mad shit about both of you every time. I think every time we got off walkie-talkies.
and I could hear anyway. I don't know about everybody else, but we could hear every time. We're like, we could totally hear them right now. It was a lot of fun. I think I would go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of like stupid fun with that this year. I think. But I guess we're back to me.
Yeah, we're in the round robin. Let's talk about Umurangi Generation. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Listen, I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Okay.
I tried to look it up. I think it's very close to Umurangi Generation. It's Maori, and I am a Howley, so I'm not going to be very good at that. But Umurangi Generation came out this year, and Umurangi stands for Red Sky, and in that language. So Umurangi Generation stands for Red Sky Generation, and it is a first-person photography game. So you are taking control of a character that has a camera, and that's really the only way you can walk around the world. You can jump, and you have a camera. So the quote unquote like shooting mechanics are taking pictures. So you're aiming, your camera and you're taking pictures. And when you start the game, the really cool thing about it is that it's kind of a story game. It really is a story. It's not kind of a story game. It's a story game, but it's told through the stages that you go through. So you start in a stage and the art style is very unrealistic. It looks like oh man, if you think back to if you ever played any of what was the light gun game of an era where it was like Time Cop or whatever. Is that
Time Crisis?
Time Crisis, yeah. You know how everything's like very blocky and kind of like it's like that. The art style of this game is the people in this game look like blocky polygon figures, and they're somewhat detailed because it's 2020, but they're not like out there making 3D figures that look realistic or whatever, right? So you're taking pictures, and every environment that you're in is pretty small. It's a pretty small map, and you start out and you're on this rooftop, and you're taking pictures. Your goal in each map is to take pictures of certain objectives or goal types. So you're taking pictures of, it'll be like, take a picture of a boombox and a mixtape. And so you have to find the boombox and the mixtape in that level. And each level will have like, the level's static. They're not procedurally generated or everything. The level's always the same. The layout's always the same. But the level might have 2 or 3 different boom boxes, or 2 or 3 different sets of mixtapes out there. And you have to find one that is, it has the word rap 1980 on it or something like that. So you have to find that specific one. And then there'll be specific ways that it wants you to take the picture, right? So in some things, it'll be like, take a picture of this, but you got to be close to it when you take the picture. You can't be very far away. And the goal of that there is usually there's some sort of like platforming kind of puzzle where it's like, oh, I got to figure out how I can get really close to that graffiti to take that picture, right? And as you progress, you get like kind of some more equipment. You get some more camera equipment. You get like a wide angle lens. You get a wide angle lens, excuse me. You get a telephoto lens, you get a fisheye lens, you get some other lenses, and that'll just kind of work its way into your objectives throughout the maps, right? So you'll get like, to the 3rd or 4th map, and it'll be like, oh, you got to take a picture of, 7 birds, but you got to use a telephoto lens. So you have to find a place in the level where you can see the 7 birds all in one shot. And they also fit in the telephoto because the telephoto lens is like, way out, looking at stuff that's very far away. So it's a very basic kind of gameplay thing. It's kind of a chill thing to do. But the really cool part of it that I really enjoyed, and I played a lot of games this year. Not I think as many as Dwayne or Dan did. I think I definitely went through times this year where I was like, I'm not into games right now. I'm tired of being in the house, even though I'm stuck here in quarantine. So I'm gonna pout in the corner and not play video games. I don't know what I did, but I didn't play as many games as I looked back at my list, and it just wasn't a lot of games. But the games that really stuck with me this year were things that you couldn't get somewhere else or that I hadn't really played or done before. And this game was one of those things, in that it's got, taking pictures in video games is not necessarily new. But the cool thing that this game is doing is it's telling a story through the levels and the information that you're getting just by walking around the levels. So you're starting in levels and you're kind of just taking pictures, and your friends, quote unquote, appear in every level. And in the first game, you're all on top of this, like, construction site. And you got this one friend who's always dancing. He's always off like doing some 80s, like sick dances or whatever, like some kind of like B-boy shit. And then you've got, some other guys just kind of hanging around. And there's some rules early on that are like, you can't take any pictures of water bottles. And you're like, that's weird. Okay, what's up with that? And as you're going around the level, you'll see there's all these like little squid things, like a couple little squid things all over the place, almost like out of the Watchmen, like little weird kind of alien looking squiddy things. You're like, that's super weird. Okay. And as you go into the next level, you start seeing these posters. So the next level is like, there's some security guys there, and they seem to like, they maybe work for the UN, the United Nations. And so they're like, go find a picture of, or go find 2 carbines, take a picture of that. Go find, 3 soldiers, take a picture of them. You're like, okay, interesting. So you're going through the map, and you're seeing like, you start seeing signs that are indicative of like, I think it's like on the 3rd level where you're just like, you're seeing posters that are like photorealistic posters on the wall that are like, some of humanity is escaping to space. And you're like, okay, what are we escaping from? Like, what's going on? The premise of the game as you go on is like, you're learning what's happening in the world. And in this particular case, I won't spoil it because it doesn't take a long time to play. Each level, you're probably going to finish each level, even if you have a really hard time, in like 20, 25, 30 minutes. And they're designed for you to go back and actually speed run later and do everything in less than 10 minutes. And it's actually pretty easy to do once you know where kind of all the spots to go to are. But what you're seeing happen in the world is kind of cool, well, it's not cool, but it's interesting. And it's presented very coolly because you're going through these spaces, and what you're really seeing is, the impact that the stuff that's happening to the world is having to the people in the environment and in the cities or whatever. And it's not like, there's no logs, you're not picking up any audio logs, you're not reading any text, you're not doing anything, you're left to infer a lot of information. And if you want to go online and read about it, I suppose you can to a certain extent. There's some information out there that's extra, but really it's just about, I'm in this space with all these refugees, like, okay, this is weird, why are these people all here, what are they doing, like, and the music's really good. The art style really, really is effective at what it's doing. The photography mechanic is, it's well done. It's right click to aim down the sights, right click to aim, left click to, take the pictures.
Make the L with your thumb.
That's how Lefty Lucy works, so it's really neat in a lot of ways, and it's doing a lot of stuff that it's a really unique experience for this year. That it's not long, it's not super expensive. I think it was like $15. It goes on sale now, and again, I think I got it a little bit on a sale, but maybe I didn't. I don't remember. There is DLC for it that I haven't gotten or played yet. I think it adds 4 levels or something, which the original game only has something like 8-10 levels. Like, it's not a long experience. But it was really cool, and it was really neat experience to just kind of wander around in that world. I think there's some other unlocks that you can get. I think you can get some roller skates and move faster and stuff like that, some video game type shit. But it was just really a neat experience that when I was looking back at like kind of what games did I play this year and what did I actually kind of like want to talk about, this was one of the games that I was like, yeah, I really enjoy talking about this, because I think it's something that probably not a lot of people saw or heard about or played, even if you did see it. And, if any of this is exciting to you, I definitely encourage you to go do it. It's not, not a big outlay or expenditure. If you need to wait while it's on sale, that's fine. And it's also not a big outlay in terms of time. You're gonna get through it in a day or a couple nights or whatever it is. So highly recommend it. And then definitely talking about games that are a huge expenditure of your time. My boy Dan's up next.
Oh boy. So yeah, I changed this last minute. This is originally going to be a segment on Last of Us Part 2. And as I thought about it, and as honestly as Jay was talking right now, this is how, like, right now I decided this, talking about new experiences. I changed it to Animal Crossing New Horizons. Because I can say a lot about
from
either.
The Peanut Gallery, you didn't change it because Last of Us 2 sucked balls?
Okay, if we want to talk about Last of Us 2 real quick, that is half of a really good game. The other half is an okay rehash that they added a shitty open world segment to that they didn't tell you it was completely optional. I could skip it. There you go. Last of Us 2, nutshell, done. Boom.
I love it.
Neil Druckmann doesn't care.
Neil Druckmann can suck my ass. Animal Crossing New Horizons, though, is also a new experience for me. I have never really gotten into an Animal Crossing game before. I tried to get into New Leaf for the 3DS or the regular DS in 2012, 2013, whenever that was, because everyone else I was around at the time was trying to play it. It might have even been earlier than that. You were like, you can be the mayor of this Animal Crossing town. And I thought, I can make zoning laws, and I was expecting like a sim. I wasn't expecting some sort of just like slice of life simulator with crafting elements. So that, and I wasn't really a big DS gamer. I have some of my favorites on that system, but it's not really my cup of tea. The handheld market. I was like, okay, Animal Crossing isn't for me. This year, being 2020, being the year of COVID-19, being the year of quarantining, in March, I was quite sick for about a week and a half almost. I never got tested to see if it was COVID, but I had a good number of the asymptomatic symptoms that weren't dangerous. I had strong fatigue, middling fever, taste and smell were completely gone. Which were really the key indicators that was probably the coronavirus, but we'll never know. And I was sort of sequestered and quarantined within my stay at home into my bedroom because I lived with my fiance. We wanted to make sure she was okay. She bleached everything. I got locked in there. We set up the futon in here, and everything ended up okay. But being in that bedroom for many days straight, and the only thing hooked up in that bedroom was the Switch, I needed something to play, and my choices were I could play Mario Odyssey again, I could finish Breath of the Wild, because I still haven't done that, or I could purchase Luigi's Mansion 3 or Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I thought, you know what? if any time was a time to try and figure out Animal Crossing, me being sick for 6 to 7 days is the perfect time. And boy howdy did I get sucked into that game, much like almost everyone else on the planet, because that game is work, the game, which is not really a problem in its package, in sort of what it is, because I'm not going to get into the intricacies of Animal Crossing. You know, you get a house on a place, you owe a raccoon money, and you keep doing odd tasks to get money, and then pay that off. And then there's also all these other systems, like you can also go into the quote-unquote the stock market, where you buy turnips on one day, and then you check the prices of the turnips throughout the week, and you sell them to the store, which was the real job. That's like the end game job after you beat Animal Crossing. And by the way, there's never any real beating of Animal Crossing that I've understood, but in this one, it's get your island to 5 stars. So that was sort of my goal with an Animal Crossing once I got into it, was get this piece of shit island to 5 stars. Get Balearica, a police state, to 5 stars. That was my meta of what the island country you're on. So you go to an island, you get the house, and what I just found endearing was really just getting to know my neighbors, getting to know the people who came with me to the island, trying to get more neighbors to come to my island, and then sort of making the island what I wanted it to be. Because once you actually get it to, I think, 3 stars, you unlock the ability to terraform. So, of course, on the island in Animal Crossing, you can cut down trees, you can find fossils, you can fish, you can catch bugs. And that took up a lot of time until I realized I'd have to be playing this game all year to complete those aspects. Because you can only get fish at certain times, you can only get bugs at certain times. Fossils, I cleared all that out with the help of people like Jay and other friends who are like, oh, I have this T-Rex skull. Oh, I don't. Trade it for you for an arcade cabinet. I bought it at the general store today.
All the other people that had an Animal Crossing quote-unquote problem.
Yeah, right. I know there's the time travel element. I did do that in May when they introduced, oh, you can get fine works of art, but only when this shady black market dealer shows up once a week. Maybe. I'm like, okay, I'll just move the time of the game around to get to him. And then I was at that point kind of recognizing, okay, I'm not really having fun at this anymore. I'm doing a checklist. Let me go back to my original plan, make this island 5 stars. And that's when I really took a whole weekend. And this was after I was sick, because some of these things I'm describing, like the seasons changing, like the black market dealer, didn't come out until May. My initial sit down of 7 days, I paid off my first 2 houses. I got, I think, all 10 islanders that you can get on an island at a time to the place. I had placed them around. I had planted trees. I have gone to Tarantula Island and caught all the tarantulas. I started in the stock market and made a lot of good money because I set up a spreadsheet with friends to track that shit and calculate stuff. I didn't have the calculations myself. Smarter people, more insane people on the internet did that, and I just applied it to my Google sheet. But it was a lot of fun, like waking up each day and checking those prices and then finding out what's in the store and then catching my bugs for the day and catching my fish for the day. And like, that was just this sort of good rhythm and routine as we moved into a quarantine life.
Sell those turnips.
But eventually that did get old. I kind of put the game down in June. So that shows I was playing that for almost 2.5 months straight. Just because the DLC for the wedding pictures was just super lame. And I was like, you know what? I've gotten everything done. I've terraformed my island to be this really cool, sort of modern-ish city for an island, which is like I had to download some custom things, and I made some custom things to make that happen. But it was nice to finally like see what other people around me were experiencing with Animal Crossing, to understand why people loved it and giving it that time of day. At this point, I wouldn't maybe say recommend getting into Animal Crossing unless you're already into it. A lot of the people who have played it have moved on, except the insane people. I might play it next week just to look at the snow and the Christmas stuff, since we're still quarantined and you can't get a lot of Christmas, so I'm trying to get as much of it as I can. Playing online with friends was a pain in the ass, but was still fun.
It's in there now, Dan. You can just go right in there right now.
Yeah, but I didn't stop work until this afternoon, and so work's over, so now I can do that for the rest of the year. Online was a pain in the ass. Nintendo's online service is absolute shit. It's absolute garbage. I do not understand how they are still in 2020.
There goes Nintendo sponsorship.
So yeah, here's the thing. I will say this.
Okay.
So Nintendo gets a lot of garbage about their online stuff. And
okay.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. The thing I will say about Animal Crossing, I played way more Animal Crossing than even Dan did. I had a certifiable Animal Crossing problem. For all of the video games I did not play this year because I was depressed because screw 2020, because everything felt too hard to do or whatever. I played Animal Crossing literally every day since the day it came out. And then I time traveled my butt off a couple times to just cheat some stuff cheaty style because that's how I play video games. But for the most part, I actually played it pretty straight. I think I didn't fall off Animal Crossing until almost September. And part of what I did with Animal Crossing was something that I don't do very often with video games, which is venture out into the online section of not just the people I know, not just my friends. And the Animal Crossing series has done this before. There have always been websites that were devoted to like share your stock market prices so we can all like make money on turnips. Now, I didn't need to do that in this game because I knew something like 30 people who were playing Animal Crossing. So literally every week, someone would show up and be like, I got baller prices on my turnips. So to this day, I still have a lot of money in Animal Crossing. I have too much money in Animal Crossing. There's nothing I could not buy. And I then have money on top of that money because I did all that stuff, right? You know, so the thing I'll say about the online thing is, some of the ways that it's set up are actually pretty intelligent for the fact that you're going to be doing things like, it's possible that you're going to be doing things like, hey, I need either really good turnip prices or I need a rare item that I haven't managed to find yet or a recipe or something else. And you're going to be out there in the seedy Animal Crossing corners of the internet on Reddit or Discord or whatever, like looking to trade with people. And one of the things that Animal Crossing I thought did pretty good is like, what I will say is like, it's got some choices with its like netcode stuff where it's like, if something bad happens and your island crashes, then it completely bones everybody else that's on the island at the moment sometimes. I think they mostly patch that stuff so it doesn't happen anymore. But the thing that's nice is you can say, hey, I just want to open up my island and anybody that I know can come visit me. You can say, I want to open up my island, but you have to have a code to come visit my island and I can only share it with the people that I want. And even within that system, you could control the code. So it's like, well, I want a code, but I also only want my friends to be able to come, or I want a code and I want to open up to anybody who actually has that code. So there's some nuance there that I do think is useful in terms of things like that, in terms of like getting people to your island where, you know, you may not be friends. I think while the aspect of like, if you're friends with people, sometimes getting to their island is still a little bit of a pain in the ass. I'm with you 100%. Like that stuff should be better.
Yeah, because that's really my big sticking point, because I did go to a couple of islands that inspired me to make some changes on my island myself. Like I would go onto the Reddit and like, oh, you know what, I'll go exploring a little bit. Or if I found a stock price online, I'd go see that island and see something I like. But a lot of the time, you know, when I play multiplayer games in any capacity, I want to play with friends, which sounds like, yeah, a doy statement, but like some people are like, no, I'll just hop into random lobbies, and that just has never been my cup of tea. Like there are a lot of multiplayer games I have completely passed on that I probably would have enjoyed because I wouldn't have had anyone to play with. And that's not so like, we'll just go find a friend in the community. It's like, well, that wasn't a thing back then. Like I'd have to go find a forum website to go do that. There isn't just like, here's a Discord and a Reddit, go nuts. But in terms of friends, like the friends list for Animal Crossing was garbage. Like you couldn't see who was online unless you went to their island one time, then requested to be a best friend, and then they would have to say they're a best friend, and then you could see who's online and offline on the web at any time. Yeah. And I know this is true because I tried to be Jay's best friend, and that took like 2 weeks. Because he'd be like, "I have good prices." I'm like, "I do not see Jay online." He goes, "I'm online." Like I can't fucking see that. You didn't accept my best friend request.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That stuff is not, and that's a combination of both the online, but that's also a combination of the way that some stuff works, right? So the desting thing specifically between you and me is because you sent me a best friend request and I didn't see it. So, you know, if I'm old man Jay over here and I can't, you know, I don't know how the internet works on my Nook phone, and I don't go in and clean out my list of who's requested to be my best friend, as I didn't in your case. Yes, you're right. But I guess what I would also say is like, I'm with you, you're right, but also it's 2020 and we're on Discord at the same time, Dan. And like you were solving your own problem, which is like you're in Discord being like, Jay, I don't see your island. And me 2 seconds later being like, Dan, I'm online, come on over. Like it's 2020. Playing with people you know is not I don't need Nintendo to help me do that, I guess. And I guess that's my point, where that system on the DS, must have been really painful and super sucky, because it was, 8 years ago or whatever, and we didn't have, you had to get in Ventrilo or TeamSpeak or whatever it was, and I assume on the version, before that you had to phone into a mud. I don't know what you were doing. But in 2020, like, for me, I actually had too many friends who were like, like, how many times, and this because you're in a lot of we're in the same communities, right? So it was like, hey, Joey Jojo, who I only tertiarily know, has $600 for their bells, excuse me. Turnips are selling for 600 bells. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I sold 2 hours ago for 450 bells because I knew some other guy had just got the turnips off my island. So it was great. And it was, done or whatever. Like, that's literally the very privileged Animal Crossing world that I was living in during this time. So, yeah, yeah, it's not great, but I don't know. To me, it was a very small thing. Go ahead, Dwayne.
I've only played a little bit on my nephew's Switch, but the one thing I will say about it, Animal Crossing, is that I love how creative people can get in the game. Because I was stumbled upon this article, and I looked it up now just to make sure it was a real thing, that you can make custom album covers and put them in your home.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Just as something as stupid as, it's not stupid, but it's cool. But just something as little as that, I would do something like that. If I played Animal Crossing, I would just have a big house and just album covers all over the house. That would be my thing. I wouldn't even bother with anything else.
Yeah,
I just like how creative you can get, and I appreciate that aspect of the game.
Yeah, the level of creativity that game offers is one thing that once I was able to get to that point, I really appreciated. But at the end of the day, my island is basic compared to what I've seen before, and I tried to emulate some stuff I saw, and I've had people who are not as creative or is not as wanting to deep dive into tools in certain games who have come to my island like, oh my god, this is really, really advanced and really like epic and really cool. And I look at like the people who are really into the game, and like my thing is just like 1% of
Nothing.
that at the end of the day. Like they've somehow made an island that is a finite size for everyone. It's roughly the same size. It might have a river differently, but you can move that once you can terraform. And somehow made it seem like it's 3 times bigger because they are doing like different things with levels and bridges, and you can jump gaps, and there's like this sky fucking garden. I'm like, how do you think of that? 2, how did you have the time and patience in this game's shitty terraforming controls?
2020, man.
It's 2020. Everybody's
2020.
at home.
I mean, I can say it because I did it multiple times,
Yeah.
like I did it multiple times where I would be like, I saw a thing, I saw something somebody else did, and I'm like, oh, that sparked an idea. And I was like, all right, let me try that out. And I would agree. Yes, the controls in that game are sometimes not the
It's
best.
okay. We lost a Nintendo sponsorship.
No, I just like, it's not by necessity because of the way they're doing it, right? Like, unfortunately, you can't enter into, I mean, you do enter into creative modes, kind of, but you don't enter into a free-form creative mode, which is really what you want, right? In a perfect world, you could, like, go, okay, kind of like, just show me the map, and then I want to work in the map view. And it doesn't work like that. You have to work in your character, using the shovel, building the level, taking the level down, building the water, filling the water in, like, and everything is very adorably Nintendo quality animated and done greatly. So yeah, that stuff takes time, but I mean, I will say it's one of the things that probably like helped me maintain some level of my sanity this year, because it would just be like, oh, I don't know where the day went, but half of my island's different now, so okay, cool. I didn't, huddle under my desk weeping because something that something that the news said about whatever. So I think for me that was a thing that, and the stuff that you can do, it was like the old Skyrim thing for me. One of the biggest problems I always had with Skyrim, and I like Skyrim, is you do cool shit and nobody can see it, right? Because it's not a co-op game. It's not an online game. And that's why, to me, Animal Crossing was like, guys, I built a really cool island that I'm excited about. Like, come over to my island. And the view that you get when you fly in over somebody's island and you get everybody going like, oh, that was really cool, man. Great job. Like, that feedback loop was really cool for me. And, I thought it was cool. I liked going and seeing Dan's island. And then, one day Dan's like, I'm totally changing up my island. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me know in 3 days when you're done so I can see it.
I made like a downtown area, and then I had like the fields area and an orchard, and then there was just this one weekend of quarantine funk where I was really down, and I went, you know what, tear it all down, build it up, and I made it completely different, and that's where I left it. Like that's, I don't know, it was a great game. It was a perfect game for 2020. I think Animal Crossing, even if you haven't played it, I wouldn't again go and recommend it now. The game has sort of changed its meta. If you don't have people to play it with, there's still an element of a single player, but sort of like Jay was saying, the feedback loop of seeing someone's island or being on someone else's island, having your friends with you there is a very important aspect of the game, which the game doesn't really tell you because it's forcing you into the single player perspective because that's what it's really built around.
I'll come look at your island. Get Animal Crossing now. Play it. It's great. Send me a friend request. I won't see it, but you can get me online on Discord. I'll come see you. Dwayne, pick it up.
Game of the year.
Yeah, game of the year.
All right. Who's ready for some nostalgia? Talk about.
I'm just ready to be angry on the streets.
Streets of Rage 4. I mean, if you haven't heard of Streets of Rage, it's a back in the old 16-bit days of Sega Genesis. Streets of Rage series came out. It was a cool little beat 'em up. One of my favorite beat 'em ups is Streets of Rage 2. I love the art. I love the music. It's a really good, solid beat 'em up game. So when they announced this, I was, Streets of Rage 4. I was curious and intrigued, but at the same time, I was worried because I'm like, it's gonna be one of those games that they just give to any old developer, and they kind of just throw it out and it's trash. And oh, look at Streets of Rage 4. Look how garbage it is, and it kind of tarnishes the old games. But surprisingly, they did a really good job, in my opinion. It looks great. I love the art style. I love the presentation. They had a comic book presentation when they did the cutscenes for this story. No technical issues with the game. Very smooth. The controls were good. I liked all the combos you can do. The different characters. The soundtrack was good. Some people didn't really quite like it, but I liked it. I thought it was a good, solid soundtrack.
Do you think that can I ask, so like the soundtrack, I mean, do you think that the people that had a problem with it are just nostalgic for that original one and just like you could never recreate that?
Yeah, I think that was the problem. A lot of people was like, okay, it doesn't meet Streets of Rage 2 level. It's trash.
Yeah, I've been doing everything in my power not to just hum it during you talking. The Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, the Streets of Rage 2 soundtrack is great, but it's kind of hard to match that. But I think they got really close with this. A lot of the songs were good. Yeah, I did not listen to the songs and think it was crap. They're very boppy, good level music. I had no problems there. All the sound effects and the punches, all that was fine. They have couch co-op, obviously, but a lot of people aren't doing that kind of. You know, if you want to do that,
come on, Dwayne. We'll play Streets of Rage and Miles Morales.
Bring your masks. Yeah, they have online co-op, but I haven't tried either one of them. I would like to one day, but that's cool that they put that in there, though. I think that was great. And you can unlock all the older characters from the Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3. I think you could unlock one of the bosses from Streets of Rage 3. I think that's cool. It's not a long game. It's like about 2 hours, max for a single playthrough. But you can unlock all the different characters. They have different move sets. For instance, the two older characters, Actel and Blaze, very generic white man, white lady characters. I mean, yeah, but they had their same move set in the old games. They have two new characters, which is Cherry Hunter, which is Adam Hunter's daughter from the older games, and they have this other guy. What's his name? The big dude. What's his name? I just forgot. Floyd. Floyd's his name. He's a big dude, and he has like robotic arms. He's a big tanky dude, does a lot of damage. And Cherry's the opposite of him. She's very quick, doesn't do a lot of damage, but she can pap, get in there, in and out. She can move around really fast, which is kind of my play style. I like that they gave you, different characters for different play styles. That's very cool. If you want somebody tanky, they got you there. If you want average, they have Axel and Blaze there. The story's short. It's not a long game. It's very quick, beat 'em up, 2 hours max. You could probably do it faster, if you play it through once. There's not a lot of replayability. If you want to unlock characters, then sure, you can keep playing it. And
Is the story different for the different characters?
yeah, oh yeah, let me get to that. So the story is kind of silly. It's very predictable. Basically, Mr. X from the old games is the boss dude from Street Rage, the old series.
The Resident Evil one?
No, not that Mr. X. It's a different Mr. X. He has two twins, and the twins are names the White
my
Twins. It's video games. It's silly, but I appreciate it's the whole silliness of it. The White Twins, which is the male and female, they are corrupting the city and they're doing all this bad stuff. And here comes the Streets of Rage crew to go do their thing and stop the White Twins. Very simple story. Again, I liked a lot of the mechanics they put into it. If you use your special move, you lose a little bit of your life, but you can get it back if you do a combo without getting hit. So if you use your special, you lose a little bit of life, but if you do I think it's like a 4 or 5 hit combo and you don't take any damage during that, you can get that life back. So it's like a risk reward type system.
How effective are those specials?
They have what's called a defensive special and an offensive special. The defensive special is just really like you can't get hit and you push away enemies, and the offensive special is kind of you're doing damage to enemies. So there's 2 different type of specials you can do depending on your situation. If you need to defend yourself or you want to kind of just be offensive and get enemies. They also have star moves, which are kind of the big flashy type of kill everybody on the screen specials. So what you need a star for. You find stars in barrels or just various spots in the different levels, which are cool. Some of them are very, very flashy. Like I think Floyd, he has like a kind of like an Iron Man unibeam thing that comes out of his chest.
Well, yeah,
So,
of course.
that's
He's
cool.
got robot arms, so therefore he has standard robot powers.
Yeah, he's Iron Man, I guess. Whatever.
It's the 90s.
What else did I want to say?
Does it play like the old Streets of Rage? Like this?
Yeah.
Does it just feel exactly like that? Jumping back in.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very familiar. They have the different health pickups, the chicken and the apple, and they have the weapon system, knife and the lead pipe, and I believe they put in a new mechanic where you can throw a weapon, and as it bounces off the enemy, you can catch it back in your hand, which is pretty cool. So that's where you have to pick it back up, but you kind of have to time it right. So as the weapon's coming back to you, you catch it and you just get it right back in your hand, which is kind of neat. It's cool. But, again, it's a timing thing. Other than that, they have different enemy types in this, which is cool. They brought back the old enemies, the guy in the yellow jacket, and, the very generic type of enemies are there. But they have a couple of new enemies. They have people that throw acid on the floor and you can't step on the acid, you get damage. The boss fights were good. They felt pretty fair. Some were pretty challenging, but they were fair. Yeah, I liked it. It was quick, short beat 'em up. I thought, I was worried it wasn't gonna be good, but it was good. If I had to rank them, obviously, I would do Streets of Rage 2 is still the best. And then I would put Streets of Rage 4 right under 2, and then I would do Streets of Rage 1 and then Streets of Rage 3, which...
No, I agree.
Streets of Rage 3 was
Hot takes, dunking on
It was
Streets of
rough.
Rage 3.
Yeah, it was a rough game. They tried, but, yeah. It was a good game. I was very pleasantly surprised with it, and I really don't have anything bad to say about it. It was fun. I don't think I missed anything there. You got any questions?
No, I mean, I feel like
Nah.
I know what Streets of Rage is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think I
Hearing
got
that
the
there's
gist.
another good installment, I feel good about it.
Good old nostalgia.
If you like punching
not?
gang members in the face.
Yeah.
Streets Rage 4. Look it up. Speaking of punching gang members in the face, you guys been punching a lot of gang members in the face in Cyberpunk 2077?
No, I'm doing a lot of hacking and turning them off where I can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about the. I mean, it's prefaces. I haven't played a lot of the story, but that's what I'm mainly doing. I just doing a lot of side stuff and just kind of I like going to the assaults in progress and kind of just beating up all the thugs there, or just seeing how much I can disable them or hack them or mess with their optics or stealth takedowns. I'm having a lot of fun doing that just right now, just kind of exploring around. But I'll eventually get to the story.
If it wasn't clear, we've switched topics from Streets of Rage 4 to Cyberpunk 2077. Our final group game discussion of the evening.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got, what's everybody playing it on? Like, so you got, in what is probably not an evergreen conversation.
No.
The topic of the day is, there's a couple of Cyberpunk 2077 conversations happening, and I think the one we're gonna have is we're all enjoying this game, and I think we're playing it to some level of bugginess, glitchiness, what have you, but none of us have had any experiences that have said, as of yet, taken us out of this game and been like, all right, I'll come back in February. And I hope, knock on wood, I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
The last game I had that with was probably Skyrim. I think Backward Flying Dragons popped into Skyrim and I was like, I'm out. When you guys fix that, I'll be back. That was too much for me.
Wait, you stuck around for Fallout 76?
Break the immersion there.
I don't know what it was about it. I think I'm just a big dragon guy, and I was really digging that aspect of Skyrim. And then
What?
when you
I
dinged
can't fly
it up,
backwards. What?
yeah, I was
I
like,
can't go backwards.
I was like, I can't. I definitely walked up on somebody. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Skyrim. It's fine.
No, we're talking
We
about
talk about the second most glitchy game of all time, Cyberpunk 2077. So what's everybody playing on?
PC.
Okay, so everybody's playing it on PC, which seems to be kind of the most stable
The safe.
experience.
And I think we have a good mix right now of Jay has the high tier PC, Dwayne has the mid tier PC, and then I have like the low mid tier PC. So I think we all like the spectrum of PCs capable of playing the game. And even myself on like the low end of that, I have a 1060 as my graphics card right now. I am still like getting high level graphics like from recommended settings, ultra settings on some of them. I've turned off a few things that I think just look ugly, like the chromatic aberration, film grain, and I'm still getting 50, 60 frames, and I still am getting some bugs. Some of them were caused by I didn't update my drivers the night before the game, so trees that were on the other side of the map just would appear right in front of me. I have some screenshots of that. But no, it's definitely a different conversation from the PC jankiness versus the console unplayability and what's going on there. Even just not to date the podcast, but it's the year of 2020, so whatever it's dated, how it got pulled from both the Microsoft and Sony stores because of how unplayable it is. But I don't think that's what we're going to really dive into.
No, I don't want to talk a lot about it. I mean, I will say, even for my PC experience, and I have, I think Dan said it, like I have a 3080, I have a new AMD 5600X.
Big money.
I have no children, so my computer is
Privilege
my
white
job.
money.
It's
going to gentrify your neighborhood, Dwayne.
I'm not. Yeah, hey, listen, guys, I'm the man, capital THEMAN. I don't know what to say about it. I'm the problem with the world. I'm sorry, everybody. But I do, like, glitch wise, constant. There's always something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've walked up to at least 4 guitar players strumming nothing, which is a pretty good one. And then pretty much if anybody's using an object in a scene and then stops using it, you can almost guarantee that object's going to float in the air and everybody's just going to ignore it like it's not there. Like that happens very consistently. All that said, it doesn't really take me out of it. I kind of like chuckle at it, kind of like whatever. I saw somebody say something, moving away from kind of the jankiness or whatever. I'm honestly always surprised so far at how good it looks in terms of the NPCs and the conversations you have. I think it doesn't, I played some of The Witcher 2 rather. I haven't played The Witcher 3. But my memory of it was, when you talk to an NPC, it's very much that Bethesda model of like, we just haven't gotten any better at this. We just played the Outer Worlds last year, right? And we had not gotten better at talking to a static NPC. It was like that you walk up to them, they go, oh shit, a person's talking to me. They lock into mannequin mode and they like turn and face you. And then
you're locked into a camera mode, stuck talking to them until you leave the encounter. Yeah.
Yes. And even then it doesn't look good. Even then you're like, well, if I lean a little bit, it just looks really janky and bad. And there are times where Cyberpunk does lock you into a seated conversation with an NPC, but in the ones where it doesn't and you walk around, like it looks way better. I won't say it looks perfect. It's still a computer, but to me, they look better. There are times when, and again, I'm not arguing that it's perfect because I can see the look on Dan's face, but for me, there are times where you're having a conversation and an NPC is doing little things like nodding at the right point in a conversation. You ask a conversation that they're going to say a positive affirmation to, and they go like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about as they say it. Like I've seen that enough times that I think it's on purpose. Like if it's not, then they've made a really cool system that works pretty good some of the time, which is also amazing. But like there's little things like that like even in the rest of the awkward stuff that you see, the models look amazing. And again, I am playing on kind of high settings, but I would want to know how it's looking for Dan, because Dan's got a look on his face. It's like, doesn't look quite as good over here, sir.
Well, just to roll back for 2 seconds, one of my funniest jank moments was I went to a strip club and all the strippers were T-posed and not moving.
So sexy. No, that's what sexy is in 2077. Dan.
Exactly. Every NPC was like, yeah, baby. And they were just like, but back to sort of what you were talking about with talking with NPCs. I do think it is better. I do agree with you, but there is still that level when you have your freedom of movement where they have clearly scripted a segment on how they think you should just not move your controller or your keyboard or mouse or however you're playing the game, and the NPCs will move around to you despite you having free movement. One level in the prologue, we've all played this, so this isn't a spoiler to us, might be a spoiler to you, too bad. We're talking about it. When you go and meet the Marauders and you have to go talk them into giving you the spider robot that they stole from Militech.
It's called Flathead.
The Flathead, thank you. I was
Respect
trying to think
the
of it. The Flathead, when you have to go pick up the Flathead, once you finish negotiating however you've chosen to do that in that mission, you are able to stand up. In my version, I wiped a key card of the Militech backend virus that could track them, and they weren't believing of me, so they had some sort of guy check it. So they took it over. I was allowed to stand up. So I'm like, oh, I must have to now walk over to them to continue this dialogue. I walk over. They're like, yep, he's correct. He cleaned it. He grabs the chip, and then the NPC, ignoring me, walks right past me, goes right back to the couch I was sitting at, and then like pointed at me while I'm back over by the other guy at the computer. He's just like, it looks like you're right. And I'm like, oh, do I need to like walk back over here and stand? Which I did to continue the dialogue.
It's fine.
So there's still some jank there.
Yeah.
But the character models, back to your question, they look all right. Judy Alvarez, one of the primary characters who's featured a lot in the promotional material, Manic Pixie Dream Girl with like the green buzz cut kind of undercut hair and side swiped over her face, does not look anything like she does in the promotional material. I don't even think on a 30 series card. I know this from having my fiance who's also playing it. She has a 3070. It's not that same thing. It looks really great. It's not that like photo perfect Keanu Reeves or that woman like you saw in the trailers. Of course, there's a little bit of difference, but on a 1060, it looks like a high-end PS4 model. It's less than Miles Morales on PS5, but it still looks serviceable. I'm not seeing like the Roblox based PS4 meme hood NPCs. Dwayne, I'm not sure how it looks for you.
It looked good for me. I mean, I haven't run into a lot of technical issues. I mean, it's funny because I'm playing a street kid, and when you start in the club, one of the very first characters I saw, they were missing their legs. I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Yep.
But I have to say, other than a couple minor glitches, I haven't had a lot of game-breaking bugs, so that's good. But I've mostly been doing a lot of free roam So I try to do stuff to like break the game, like try to climb certain buildings I'm probably not supposed to climb, or you know, I try not to do the story path stuff right away. I always like to just kind of explore and see different things and see what the limitations are. So far, it's been pretty good. The one thing that kind of messed me up a little bit is I didn't realize it, obviously. When you start the game, you get the whole map, you feel like you can go anywhere. So I'm like, I'm gonna drive around the city. I didn't know that they kind of restrict you to one area when you start. So I stole the Akira looking motorbike. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna drive around the city now in this thing. I'm gonna drive around the whole night city. So I'm driving, and I think I was going north. Wait, no, uh, like southwest or southeast. Sorry. And I'm driving down there, and all of a sudden, it's like warning, please turn around. It does that little like glitch like thingy where like it messes your eyes up. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, hold on. So I can't kind of got the whole epilepsy thing, and and I get it because I didn't think it would be a problem for me, but I'm sitting there driving along and I'm fine, and then all of a sudden the screen starts to freak out and I'm like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah.
So I haven't even touched any of the brain dance stuff yet, and I heard that was pretty extreme.
I
But
think
other
they
than that,
toned
it's
it
been
way
good.
down because I mean they patched that almost immediately, and I know
Yeah,
that
I never experienced it.
I've now done it multiple times, and it's definitely not it hasn't been a problem for me. And I went and I think I looked at a video of what it looked like before, and it was very, they did whack it way down essentially. Like, I think a lot of the stuff that I like about it is one, I've been a fan of Cyberpunk since I was a little nerdy RPG kid. I always thought that was a really cool world, and I think the immersion stuff that they're doing here, you kind of pointed to it, right? There's a lot of stuff that happens in your vision because you are a cyber person. You have implants, you have this OS that's operating underneath everything else. So as things are happening either in the world that there are things that can take over your optics and throw a thing up on your screen, right? It could show you like, virus detected, some bad stuff's trying to happen. You're getting hacked by another guy, some ganger out there's doing some bad stuff to you, and like I think that stuff's all done incredibly well. Like I think that the world is amazing. Our buddy Don, before he passed away, was fond of sharing RIP was fond of sharing screenshots, and like the screenshots are just like some of the missions that I've been on where you're driving through the city, or you're being driven, you're a passenger, and you're seeing the level of detail that went into this, and it's kind of gross. Like it's kind of like gross in a good way, and just like it's overwhelming how much they've put into this city. We could, I think there's a lot of not amazing aspects to it, of just like I don't know the number of voices that were involved in this, but like there's definitely portions of it you could see where it's like, did 9 teenage boys make this video game? Because every ad is about like
Sex.
Every ad is about sex. Every ad is about. Have you guys seen the what I think is a tampon ad? Have you guys seen that thing? Yeah. I mean, like I mean, part of me goes like kudos on, I guess, your innovation, but also like you only saw the innovation go in certain ways, right? I think that's a bummer. Like I would love to see. And there's plenty of, source material you can go look at. There's 20 plus years of actual Cyberpunk source material. You go look and find some interesting stuff. And they did use some of it. And, I think that's a bummer. I think that unfortunately, I don't want to talk about a bunch of bad things about this game, but I do think that they need to be said, which is like, it's not. I don't know if The Witcher was this way. I don't know. I didn't play a lot of CD Projekt Red games, unfortunately, badge of shame. But yeah, there's aspects of it that I look at and I'm like, could you have gotten somebody that wasn't a prepubescent teenager to have like given some feedback on this game? Because there's parts of it that are really gritty in good ways, and then there's parts of it that are really gritty in all the same way, which is it's all about here's some boobs. Right. Here's one of the ads in that thing is a big butt in a dude's face, and the dude's like super stoked about it. Like, and that thing is everywhere. Like, that's the most prevalent ad ever. And there's not, you know, I think some of the TV ads are interesting and do other stuff that's not all like sex driven, but there's not as many of those things. And I think that, you know, I would have rather seen more of that aspect of the world than, I don't know, 80% of the time. It's
I feel like that kind of stuff is, at least for me, I'm not sure if there's like a talk radio show in game when you're driving around, but like when you're booting up the game for the first time and it's loading everything, they're always like doing some sort of interview segment or news segment, or they're talking about something. They're not doing the advertisements. There's like something not story related but world related they're talking about. They're just like doing the lore. I'm like, I want more of that. Like they talk about it on the TV sometimes, but I do have a huge audio bug with my game, which I have not been able to fix or figure out, where TV sounds like it's 5,000 miles away, so I can never really hear it.
Okay.
And then also there's a white noise that I cannot get rid of, and it hurts my ears, so it really, that's kind of sucks, because it makes my playing time, I can only play for like an hour or two before I get a headache. I've looked into it. It's something a lot of people are experiencing on lower end machines, it seems. So I'm not sure what's causing it. But one thing I just want to ask, sort of going back into, I want to talk about the story just a little bit, not like the plot elements. Dwayne, you said you're a street kid, right?
Yeah.
And Jay, you're a corpo?
Yes.
Okay. And Dwayne,
I am no longer a corpo.
No, right. You're not a corpo after the first 5 seconds. I know, I picked corpo path.
Correct.
You're like, I'm a corpo. I get beer all the time, and everyone. Oh wait, you're not a corpo anymore. Okay,
No,
cool. Might as well have picked street kid. But Dwayne, you got through the prologue, right? You got to the title screen of the game.
Yes.
You have met Keanu Reeves.
Not yet.
No, because
but
that doesn't happen
close.
immediately.
Yeah, it doesn't happen immediately, but I think I'm close to that, but not
Okay, have
yet.
you done the tower segment yet? Have you gone
Not if
to
you didn't meet him.
Is it? Well, I'm about to do. I hope it's not a spoiler, but the relic thing.
Oh, okay. So that's what I wanted
have.
to talk about. Okay, so we're not
No,
at the same.
You could.
No,
you can talk about it.
No, I can't.
Okay.
No, I can't.
All right.
I'm just gonna
We
say.
won't spoil that for you.
God, because I just want to say one thing. I told Ari is, it's funny because Jackie is really a corpo's best friend, because we've known him longer than you stupid street kid who's only known him for like 6 months.
Yeah.
That's all I really want to say. He's your fake friend. He's our friend.
Yeah.
That's not a plot thing. That's just a path thing. That's not going to affect anything with you.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are that far in the story. I think all of
Yeah.
us are either just before or just in Act 1. And I'm interested in the story. I think it's doing some okay, cool cyberpunk things. And I mean, I think most things about cyberpunk are like most things about D&D, right? If you find a new D&D story, come tell me about it, because I can't wait. Because otherwise you're just going to tell the same 20 D&D stories that we've all told or read or heard, a million times. And that's fine. They're all going to be nuanced in their own thing. But like finding new stuff in that space is like really difficult. So it's like Spider-Man, right? Fine. Retell the same Spider-Man story again. I'm cool. I'm here for Spider-Man. I'm here for Cyberpunk. So far, the story is doing the things I expected to do, but I'm enjoying it. Dan and I are kind of joking earlier, and it's, there's the Keanu Reeves aspect of this thing that we sort of can't ignore.
Right.
And my take on it is like, I'm kind of glad he's in there. I'm super stoked that they did this and got him in there. His performance, real hit or miss. Like, there's times that it's great, and I'm like, this is some good Keanu Reeves. And then there's times that I'm like, what if it was Nicolas Cage? Because he's not doing that great, but it would be Nicolas Cage. So it's like, it's very interesting. I would love to see some more. I can't wait for the behind the scenes Keanu Reeves. Like, do you actually know what you were doing during this thing? But some of it's really good. He's there. He's working his butt off. He's doing a great job. And then some of it is,
Bram Stoker's Dracula, Keanu Reeves.
We could have had 2 takes on that one, like this game, we had the money.
Well, I feel like they went from, obviously, because the whole Matrix thing, Neo, he's the one tie-in. That's the whole allure of getting Keanu, sort of. I know,
Sure.
but it's the whole, it's Neo, it's the one. Oh my God! But seems like his performance was pretty hit or miss. But I guess I'll see when I get there.
Yeah, I think it's, I guess what, I'm having a lot of fun in the world. Like, I'm having a lot of fun in that world. For a guy that never played any of the Witcher games to completion, I fell off all of them. I got bored. I'm sorry, Witcher fans. Like, that's me so far. I'd love
All
to.
right, R.I.P. Don. We know how much you loved it in life, and we
Yeah.
hope you love it in death. And
You know, the 2020 Dawn Memorial Game of the Year award goes to Cyberpunk 2077.
No, I agree though. The world is very cool. I think it's a little, for my taste, a little busy, but I understand like the aesthetic of it, and it needs to be busy. It's kind of funny because me and Ari, my fiance, were watching a show called The Expanse on Amazon Prime. Not sure how many people are familiar with it. It does take place in the future, and we were actually just talking about how in one of the episodes we just watched, it was nice to see a different version of a future slum. It's not just everyone stacked on top of each other and there's garbage in the street. It's just like, hey, it's a slightly updated version of the world today. It's been slightly gentrified because you can't avoid that. But otherwise, it's normal. It's still just like a place you can go, as opposed to people are living on cardboard boxes on top of each other, on top of an awning, on top of a fruit stand that's also like attached to this building, and it's just a shanty town. It's like that's kind of like what Watson is in Cyberpunk. Like that's that level of sort of slummy kind of area, and then you move out into the wider city, and it gets a bit more refined and a bit more gentrified and a bit more expanded, and each one is based on your class. And you go back to the nomads, and that's like your stereotypical almost wasteland outland, but with a cyberpunk edge to it. So it's kind of cluttered for me. I like how much I can do in the world. I do not like how when I move throughout the world, now being out of the prologue, how every time I reach a new area, there's a fixer calling me. Like, give me the option to ignore that shit, please. I don't need to hear about Mr. Hands being like, yo, you just crossed the bridge into my territory. I know everyone on this side of the bridge. Like, cool, man, I'm doing side quests right now. Can you fuck off?
There's a lot going on in that game. You know, one of the things I think to its benefit, but also detriment, is that it is super busy. You know, somebody had messaged me at one point and was like, man, I guess I'm stupid because I just can't master the controls of this game. And I'm like, no, they're trying to do too much. One, you just need to play it for another 5 hours, because especially in that first portion, everywhere you go, there's something new. You know, again, I'm 40 hours in, and part of that is because I left it running one day, but I'm probably legitimately 25 to 30 hours in. And some person just showed up and was like, oh, you want to do car races? It's a new side activity. And I'm like, hey, no, because driving in this game eats a fat one. Mm-hmm. I don't. It's not good. It's not good.
Driving as WASD is just terrible. Stop doing it.
No, driving's bad. Okay, how interesting that you're the 19. Actually, there's not that many different side activities, but yes, you're another side activity that you've called me out of the blue. And it is like the fixer thing. You know, the nice thing about the fixer thing is eventually you know all the fixers and they stop calling you. The bad thing about the fixers is every time you go up a level in street cred, 7 of them text message you and they're like, I got a new car that I didn't have 5 minutes ago, but because you blew the head off 2 more tire claws, I found this car. Do you want to buy it? And I'm like, bro, I do not want to buy your shitty car. What? This is a weird service that they're providing. It's like texting. Are they doing this for everybody? Are they texting everybody to be like, I got a new car. Which one of you guys wants this new car? Or is it just me? I'm not sure.
They are doing too much. And Dwayne, I'm not sure, just based on where you are, how much you've dealt with it. But the upgrade path system, like all of those trees, it is ridiculous the amount of like different attributes, different levels, and then like the different levels within those levels that you can upgrade. Like I played a lot of the Fallout games, and it's like, yeah, you have your special system and then you have your paths, but it's like it's pretty easy. It's a pretty standard tree system. But the Cyberpunk, you have 5 different attributes, 6th one once you get out of the prologue, I think a little bit down the line, and then it's like there's 2 to 3 different branching pathing perk lines, and that's like fucking what?
Yes, super dense. Go ahead, Dwayne. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say that I've heard about all the perks and stuff, but when I saw it on the screen, I was like, "Wow, this is a lot," and I had to actually sit there and read which one do I want to use for this character, what kind of playstyle am I going for. So I had to actually kind of plan out exactly what I want to do, because I'm pretty sure you can't pick everything. It's probably not one possible on one character, so you have to kind of pick and choose what you want.
Yeah, I like it the more of it that I play, and the more it's like anything, I think, right? The more of it that you see, and the more times you go in, the closer you get to your 10,000 hours with Cyberpunk or whatever. The closer you get to your mastery of it. And now that I'm more familiar to it, you know, there's the 2 or 3 screens that, you know, I'm going reflexes and technical mostly, right? So I'm very familiar with that skill tree, what it looks like. And because you kind of make your choice for your character, you know, I think that's the way to do it. You know, that being said, yeah, it's dense as shit. And then when you go into the inventory menu, it's like, did you just want to look at your regular inventory? Did you want to look at your backpack? Did you want to look at the 17 different filters of what's in your backpack? Did you want to scroll through these guns in a useful way? Or did you just want to look at a pile of guns like an asshole? Like, it's that stuff is, you know, again, it's all the ways that I bet money this game gets better in the next 3 months. Like, I bet, you know, not just the jank, not just this game will be janky for the next 10 years, but it is an open world game. It's going to do that.
Right.
But they're going to read the feedback that somebody goes like, how come every time I sell a gun, the screen resets and my other 20 guns get, you know, bumped up the list, and I can't just select 20 guns because I'm carrying 50 of them and I'm just trying to sell them because it's the only reason I'm picking up these guns, because I have the gun I need. I don't need a new gun for 3 more levels. But the system to sell guns sucks. You know, why does the system to craft items make me craft 1 at a time items instead of a stack of 20 items? I could disassemble a stack of 20 items sometimes when my game's not glitched, as it is currently. So, you know, I think those are the things that, like, you know, listen, if you're a Sony guy, you can't buy this game today. You're welcome. Eventually, they'll sell this game to you again. If you're on the Microsoft store, you can't buy this game right now. Eventually, they'll sell this game to you again. And I think at that time, that's the time to buy this game. But, you know, or if you're on PC is, you know, okay, but the quality of life stuff that's going to get better over time, I think is going to be key.
And to anecdotally refute, sort of, to go back to your, the more you play, the more you'll understand it. My fiance's on level 22 and still doesn't get the perk system. She's been playing that game for 20, 30 hours at this point, and she is still unaware of, like, what to do with the perks.
And that's fair. Like, you know, I think that that's totally fair, because it's confusing, and it's
it's taking an entire book like D&D, because as you mentioned, Cyberpunk was a tabletop RPG, and trying to translate it into a game. And, you know, D&D has done that before. People have taken elements from D&D, but they've modified them. I think they tried to take what Cyberpunk was and translate 90% of that into a single-player gaming experience, where they've taken out stuff like class systems. Like, there's not the classes from Cyberpunk 2020, I believe it originally was. For the year, but, you know, they tried to keep a lot of the upgrade path, or what you would get from most of those classes in terms of upgrades, because if you know D&D, you don't get every magical spell, you don't get every perk if you pick a warlock versus a wizard versus an elf or whatever, you know. But I think they tried to shove everything you could have become in Cyberpunk 2020 into 77, when you're just being, I believe it's a solo player class, like you're playing a solo, which is the equivalent of a merc, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be something. It's definitely a learning curve in terms of the mechanics, outside of jank, outside of just controls, the mechanics.
And I think part of it is definitely, like, again, I've played a little bit of the Witcher games. That menu looks CD Projekt Red as shit to me. Like, go look at the menu system for The Witcher and how many skills you can get. Yeah. Like, it's not Path of Exile level, but it's the next thing down, in my opinion. And it's exactly what I thought when I pulled the menu up in this and I saw the different, you know, the perk map. And then you realize that there's a different perk map. I'm sorry, there's not just one different perk map. There are multiple different perk maps for each of your RPG stats, of which there are 5. So if you're a reflex guy like me, you click on reflex, and then it's like, do you want to be an assault reflex guy? And no, wait, what is it? I'm sorry. So that one is annihilation, handguns, blades, I think are the 3, right? So if you want to be a pistol guy or a shotgun guy or rifles, anyway,
just evidence of how confusing it is, where he's been in this game for 20,
I get
30
it.
hours.
I'm a reflex guy, and I'm like, I don't know, because literally I go in there and I click on handguns because I'm not doing the other 2. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a blades guy. I'm not a shotgun guy. I'm a pistol guy. That's what I chose. So, but yes, it's 3 clicks deep. And, you know, sometimes you click on reflex and you're like, how come none of my stuff's here? And you're like, oh, because I didn't go back to the top of the screen and click on the handgun tab. Like, it is a little bit brutal.
It's a lot. But the side missions are fun. A lot of the world is fun. I enjoyed the boxing quest if you pick that up in the very early game. Beating up the twins. Sorry, they're not twins. They're a singular person, 2 bodies.
One person.
Yeah, one person.
One person.
We have the
one
same
mind.
We have the same girlfriend.
Are you guys lady voice or male voice?
I did it a lady character.
I did a dude. I did a douchebag.
How's the dude's voice?
Generic. Do you know Cole from Infamous? I don't think it's the same actor, but it sounds just like him.
Okay. I mean, the voice acting for I'm a lady as well. I mean, the voice acting for that character of V is good. I think they're doing a good job.
I don't have any problems with it. It sounds fine.
Yeah, it sounds all right.
I will say there's a lot of other things. The one thing that I just thought of that I wanted to get back to, because I thought of it earlier, is you said, so you were pointing out the part of it where, so you leave your seat and the NPC doesn't know you've left your seat. So, 10 minutes later, he goes back and he goes, here's your card or whatever. That is sort of rampant throughout the whole game in terms of everything. Like, this is very much a game that does not give a shit what happened 30 seconds ago or 10 hours ago. That part is bothering me a little bit. I get the sense every conversation I have, like, there are a lot of conversations in this game. This is an RPG. You make a lot of quote unquote choices about the things you say. I am willing to bet 900% of them don't matter. Every time I make a choice.
They make it pretty clear because they have the blue things that don't matter, and then you have the yellow. Oh, are you talking about the choice system?
I'm talking about when there's 2 yellow choices. Because you're right. There's blue that is like, here's some background information. I want to ask you about your cousin because you just mentioned him, but he's not important to pushing the story forward. And then there's yellow, which pushes the story forward. Like, yellow is like, you get to, okay, let's go. Let's get in the car and get out of here. That'll be yellow. And sometimes in conversations, there'll be like, a general RPG cyberpunk choice. And it'll be like, okay, I got to talk to this guy to get him to give me something. And I can be like, hey, give me this and I'm going to punch you in the dick. Or, hey, man, help me out. I'm just trying to live and get by out here. Or, and maybe sometimes you have a choice based on your background or a skill set that you have that'll be like, oh, I'm a corpo, so I know this piece of information, so I can choose corpo and be like, I know how corporations work. You're BSing me. Give me this information or whatever. And that part seems to be interesting and unique. But when it comes to the other 2 choices, every time, you'll pick the one that's like, kick this dude in the balls or threaten to kick this dude in the balls. And you'll say a thing that you're like, well, that could have easily fit in either one of those things. Like, I get a strong feeling that the thing she says.
No, I get what you're saying. And I don't. And we discussed this offline. We discussed this in Discord when I thought there was a major choice, and then it turned out not to be a major choice. I do not think there's a choice system in the game. I don't think your words or what you choose will affect the outcomes of many situations in the game. I think it is pure role playing, and I'm okay with that as someone who does a lot of meta gaming to all of my RPGs, to like how my character would portray. Like, I don't just like, I need to get to the next thing and do the next mission. I actually sit and think of like, okay, I'm not Dan playing this game. I am V, and this is my version of V. How would V react in this situation? I do appreciate that they're giving me options of like, you would say it this way or you would say it this way. And yes, it's the same thing you're saying at the end of the day, but there is like a subtle difference in how the character is reacting. And so I think it's just like pure immersion for your character and building almost like a script writing process that you're going through, which might not be everyone's cup of tea. Everyone might go, oh, if I kick him in the dick, he might like try and stab me later in the story. But if I gently stroke him, he'll give me 35%, which that doesn't matter. So go do what you want to do.
I think that I think if there was anything there that I saw, I would agree. I think I consistently see nothing there. I consistently see, wow, that really didn't matter what I did. Like it's about 10% of the time that I can do something that I'm like, oh yeah, that made a difference. I straight knocked that dude out. He's now unconscious. I can't talk to him anymore. Like that. And you could see where if you didn't do that, the conversation would go another way and that would be good. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That feels good. There are literally times where you'll have a whole conversation and something he said 3 choices ago, like, I'll never work with you. And you get back to the end of the conversation and he's like, all right, let's get in the car and go. And you're like, what the fuck just happened here? Like that, because the game has to go that way. You know what I mean? It's just like, there's a lack of consistency there that I unfortunately see too often. I'm cool with, if it was like, let me pretend whatever happened, that stuff is fine. If it literally shows me, like, I just had a conversation with a character in a place where you walk up, and as you walk up, there's a conversation taking place, and you're supposed to see it. It's a specific thing that you're like, before I interact with this character, I'm supposed to say this other character, see this thing, and kind of like storm off in a huff. And you sit down with the new character and you're like, what just happened there? That was awkward. And they're like, yeah, whatever, none of your business, but, ask them about it. I'm sure they'll be around. You can ask them about it. And they make a point to be like, yeah, go ask that person about it. That person's not there. And literally, because I went and I was like, let me go talk to that person and see what they have to say. And then literally like, same conversation, because you have to take a break and then come back and talk to that same person. And you talk to that person, they're like, oh yeah, you should talk to that person that just left. Except now that you have to talk to them, they're literally across town. Like in the 5 minutes that they were supposed to be sitting there in that place, they're like, oh yeah, their house is like, 2 kilometers away. You should call them on the phone and then go see them about that thing. And I'm like, all right, fine, video game. Like, I get it. You want me to go to a new section of the city. I hear what you're doing. Thank you very much. But it's just one of those things that it does a little bit too often where I go like, all right, try. Okay. Don't have the middle conversation where they're like, yeah, they're probably sitting in the bar, just, drinking one off. Like they're not, dude. They left. just have that person say they left. Like it would be 10 times better. So there's just a lot of little stuff like that where I go like, all right, fine. You could have cared a little bit more about whoever was, whatever 10 people were writing the story could have gotten into a room every once in a while and been like, oh, you can't have that guy do that because actually I had that guy, you can't have that guy show up with 2 legs. I have him lose his leg over here. I don't think those conversations were happening. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a big game. It's doing a lot of cool stuff. It really is. Like it just makes its gross bits too obvious sometimes, I think, for me. But I still love it, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Maybe I just like janky shit.
Yeah.
We played Phasmophobia, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
We clearly like
janky
shit.
That is the king of jank. Yeah.
So, any last thoughts on Cyberpunk 7? I think we covered kind of a lot of stuff. Anybody we're missing anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I'm just going to keep playing it and hopefully get some enjoyment out of it. That's pretty much all I got to say about it.
I'm looking forward to when I can get a graphics card that can beef it up. I mean, it's hard to get one right now if everyone's aware of what's going on with graphics cards in 2020, but I mean, I can play it right now. I just want my audio issue to be fixed. But other than that, I'm having a good time.
That must be annoying.
It's really, really bad. It's not even my headset or my headphones. I've done a couple different headphones and it always comes through that way. So I'll take a look at it. I'll keep trying with it. I've seen a couple fixes. I've tried them. They kind of work, but they mess up the audios in different ways that aren't necessarily bad. But it's like it makes it hard to hear. But I don't want to dwell on that if we're wrapping up. It's something I'm having fun with, and I will continue to have fun with it until I'm done with it.
Yeah, they'll continue to fix it and make it better. If you can't play it yet, don't feel too bad about that aspect because it just means it's going to be better by the time you can.
Right.
I think it's pretty good now. I look forward to probably another playthrough next year. With the new and inverse, whatever the DLC is and everything else. I think that'll be cool.
Do you think they'll have the balls to call it the Game of the Year edition?
I don't think right now anybody's going to give it the Game of the Year award, but like maybe, in terms of a reputable outlet, I don't know. But I mean, I don't know what that requires anymore. Yes, they probably will. I guess that's the answer, right?
Overworked Polish Developers Monthly calls it Game of the Year.
If it was you or me, it would be like Glitch of the Year edition. That's what we would do. That's what we put out like in June of next year, Glitch of the Year edition.
Just call it Cyberpunk 2077 Glitchless.
Yeah, we don't care about branding or keeping our jobs. So
yeah. And on that, I think we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back with the remainder of this year's Year of Games and our superlatives. Catch you after the break.
Thank you for rejoining us after our break. Hopefully, a little bit more brief for all of you guys. We've got some superlative topics that we're gonna go over here. Some topics that we all talked about. What do we want to talk about this year? What do we want to kind of have some quick hits or some brief discussions on? And our first topic is going to be, maybe some shorter version, honorable games that you spent some time playing this year. Dan, what'd you play this year that you didn't talk about a little earlier?
Sure. So I played sort of the big party games this year, Among Us and Fall Guys. Some really good party games. I know Among Us is from 2018, but it really came into popular this year from streaming. That was a lot of blast. I'm looking forward to playing a little bit more of this during the holiday break. Fall Guys, I think, was a little bit more flash in the pan than that. I'm not sure why. Because they're definitely something that's updating the game. I still had a lot of fun with it. I know I played it with Dwayne. We did a lot of it during Extra Life as well. I also played a lot of remakes this year of games I had never played before. So the entire Crash trilogy, the entire Spyro trilogy. I didn't own a PlayStation growing up, so I didn't play those. And I also played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Those are games I did play on the Dreamcast, which are the best versions. Fight me. And those games held up. It was good to hear those soundtracks again. It was a good September, summer-ish end time jam. I just wish the multiplayer was a bit more fleshed out. I know it's more fleshed out now, but I'm done playing the game. So, sorry, Activision.
Dwayne, how about you?
All right, I'll just go through these quick. Yakuza Like a Dragon, really cool. It's like a whole new story. Really having fun with that so far. Finally started playing Control. Really fun. Really liking it. It's really cool. Like all the different powers she has and the story. It's really it's cool. Like all the different sources of power or whatever. It's cool to kind of read all that stuff. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, great game. Cool little throwback. I love the soundtrack and the just playing the game again. That just kind of brought me back to the old Dreamcast. Not Dreamcast, but the was it Dreamcast?
PlayStation 1,
PlayStation,
N64.
right? Yeah, the old console days. It brought me back there. Resident Evil 3 remake. It was a little short, but it was good. I liked it. It wasn't as good as Resident Evil 2, but it was good.
Did they shorten it from the original?
I believe they did. They cut out the clock tower part.
They cut out the clock tower and they cut out some of the alternate paths you can take.
Oh,
yeah. I guess they wanted to just maybe streamline it, or maybe they were under a crunch. I don't know. Maybe they just had it. They screw it.
Evil 2 was too good. We're gonna do that again.
But
Okay.
no,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
it. Destroy All Humans had a remake, which was kind of out of left field, but I did enjoy that game when it originally came out, and I played the remake, and it's pretty fun. It's good. You're alien and you kill humans. I mean, it's fun. Star Wars Squadron was pretty cool. I played that in the VR for a little bit, and I did try some of the multiplayer. It's fun. I heard they added some stuff to the game. I haven't went back to play it yet, but maybe I'll check it out. Fall Guys was a big PlayStation thing. They gave it out for free on PS Plus. A ton of people got it. I eventually bought it for PC because people playing there too. It's a lot of fun. Among Us, like Dan said earlier, was that came out 2018, but it just kind of got, I guess, popular. Everybody staying home and just kind of wanting to do something. So Among Us got a bit of a boost there in popularity. Jackbox Party Box 7 came out this year, which was good timing again because everybody's stuck in the house. So, and that's a lot of fun. I really kind of like that pack because it feels very well rounded. There's a lot of different. There's like a drawing game, and there's a talking game, and there's like a kind of a big party group game, and they have Quidditch or Quibbish? Quiplash, sorry. One of those. Yeah, but it's a good pack. I like it. I enjoyed it a lot. And last one is Fuser. That's Drop Mix, the the video game. It's fun. I like it. I mean, I just like it. It's not really a game. It's more of like a music experimentation type of software. But it's fun. It's fun to kind of play around and mess around with the different things you can do, different instruments, different effects. It even has like a multiplayer thing, which I kind of play with randos, and I actually had a good time. Surprisingly, one of the few games you could play with randos and actually have a good time. It was cool. I like Fuse. I mean, they're adding stuff. They're adding songs. It's they're I think it's pretty cool. It's, again, it's not really a game, but it's more of like just music experimentation, which I kind of like to just kind of go in there and chill and mess around with. That's it.
Yeah, Fuser's definitely dope. Something in the latter half of the year that I've actually spent kind of a surprising amount of time, and it's because it is good and it's fun. It's something that I've actually been in some Discord channels with friends where we don't share gameplay a lot, but that's one where you can kind of just share the gameplay and nobody's got to look at it, but you can, because you're sharing the audio, they can just hear it. And you got to work pretty hard to make a bad mix in that. So it does wind up being kind of just a cool, like, I don't know, like low key DJ thing, just hanging out with your buddies and playing music, except, cool, dropping new stuff in there. So, for me this year, I think the two games that I'd want to talk about or just mention really briefly, one of them is I finally started playing some of the Total War series, specifically the Total Warhammer series. I picked up both 1 and 2, which really they're just continuations where they add features and races and stuff. That's kind of the thing they're doing with that model is they had Total Warhammer and then they have Total Warhammer 2, but when you own them both, it just kind of makes one big game where you have access to all these different Warhammer races. And it's a Total Warhammer game. If you're into war game stuff, it's cool. The thing about this I like that I don't like about the normal ones is I like the fantasy aspect. So I like, playing rat guys with machine guns is pretty cool. That's Skaven is my go-to. And then the other game that I actually played a little bit this year that I thought was kind of really interesting, again, in a way that I don't think a lot of people played it or saw it, was a game called Avorion. It's a space game. And it is it's a space game in which it's procedurally generated and you build your own spaceships. So, there's a little there's a space building function of it, and it works sort of like it looks a little Minecrafty, but a little bit more complex than that. And you create spaceships by dragging shapes and materials and stuff like that. And so you create these ships that there's an online workshop, so some people are out there creating amazing looking things, but you can literally create this big rod with some shit sticking off of it and you're like, this is my ship. I made a giant Borg vessel, it's just one big square, isn't it rad? So you can spend a lot of time in there doing that, and the goal is to get to the center of the galaxy. I think it's galaxy. And as you go in, it's got some of those like Minecraft type things of you're using iron and basic materials, and then you go one level closer and the enemies get harder, but also you're mining better materials. And as you get into the center, you're leveling up and teching up through better materials and stuff. And really cool. Really just, I spent a lot of time playing that too, actually, and that was really fun. Really cool. Like, if you like space games, but it's not necessarily the typical space game, it's got some cool like build your own ship stuff in there. I thought that was really cool. So those are the two things that I wanted to just kind of highlight, games we didn't get a chance to talk about somewhere else. So that said, we have our second, I don't want to call it category, and I'm just going to quote the document as it reads here, which is our baller ass moment of the year.
Okay, you're acting like this is something you had no part in. This was your category from last year. You made that last year, and I carried that over. Sweet. Exactly.
Making fun of myself from a year ago. I've grown so much since then, Dan. I'm a different man.
Well, let's start with your baller ass moment of the year then, Jay.
Yeah, so my baller ass moment of the year, which actually until tonight I didn't have. I could not think back to a moment in 2020 where I was like, so this actually comes from last year, right? This comes from Control for me, where, there's a scene in Control that if you played it, you know what it is. And it's sweet. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, there's nothing that even approached that this year. So my very little baller ass moment of the year was when we were playing Phasmophobia. We're going through the ropes. We're all in a bedroom. We've just gotten used to the concept of what we think you're supposed to do with the crucifix, which is like throw it at a ghost. And I discovered for the first time ever, because as you're going through the Phasmophobia houses, there's furnishings and stuff, but most of it you can't touch. Like none of it does anything. You can't pick up a dish. You can't pick up anything. And I discovered that in this bedroom, you could pick up one of the shoes. So I decided that, okay, now that I could pick up the shoe, and I don't tell anybody I was doing it, I just picked up the shoe and started carrying it around because I wanted to know if you guys would notice that I was carrying a shoe. Because to me, it was just funny. I'm just giggling to myself or whatever. And then as we're going, like we're talking about the ghost, I don't even remember if the ghost was in there and I threw it at the ghost or not. In my head, I think I did, but I also might have just thrown it at you guys. But to me, that's my baller ass moment of the year. Everything about that says... Video
I didn't know
games.
you did that on purpose. No, what happened was you threw the crucifix. We freaked out because it didn't work. We turned the lights back on. The ghost was gone. We were coming up with a new game plan, and I noticed you had in your hand a shoe. And it made no sense.
It was a good moment. It was a good, what do you call those emergent gameplay moment in Phasmophobia in 2020. Dan, what was your ballerist moment of 2020?
Well, my ballerist moment of 2020, if we're changing the superlative name, actually happened in a D&D game, so I don't know if that counts. I punched a demon in the nuts and hurled it through hell. I punched it so hard I sent it straight to hell, and then it came back with brain damage. But if we're talking about video games, it was a baller ass moment. All right, my D&D group still talks about it. But was The Last of Us Part 2. This game actually finally introduced like a boss enemy to the series. The previous game was like, oh, it's just a harder infected type. I forget what the heck they're called. They're infected by mushrooms.
Clickers.
The clickers, right?
There's the clickers, but I'm talking about like the species. It's like cordyceps. Cordyceps the name.
Oh.
They actually have like a boss cordyceps called the Rat King, which is a like mound of 7 different clickers and bloaters all fused together. And you have to face it in a not underground hospital, but like the basement of a hospital. And it was pretty fun fighting that. And it's pretty realistic. If it grabs you, you die. There's no like, oh, I can struggle to escape. And it has like charge moves and like throws pustule balls at you. It breaks off pieces of its like 7 corpses and chucks it. And then those things wake up and they become like the ads in the fight, which is horrifying because they're also like super fast. So it's breaking things off, and I'm killing them, and I'm dodging it, and I die like three or so times on it. And then finally, in like an unrealistic moment for this game that is really trying to go for gritty realism, I remember I had a grenade launcher, and so it was running at me, and I had hit it a couple times with a shotgun. I knew it was kind of getting close to death, and I shot it, and the explosion happened right in front of me, and it collapsed in front of me. And I was like, that should not have happened. The explosion should have kicked back and killed me, but I'm taking it. That's my baller ass moment of the year.
Nice. Dwayne.
I was thinking about this, but I don't know. I think my baller ass moment of the year was just playing Jackbox 7 when we did Extra Life this year. I mean, I had a blast. I mean, like group games like that, I just always love doing because you just never know what responses you're gonna get. You never know what's gonna happen. It was funny when I had a Slane's thing and I just drew Loretta and it just kind of went from there and just got all wild and crazy. And then the other game we played with the where you gotta kind of guess the word or guess the word that they're giving you clues. Just like stuff like that is just fun. I mean, I don't know if it constitutes a baller ass moment, but I just had fun. You know, we were raising money for kids, so that's always good. So
that's
baller.
That's what video games are, and raising money for kids is baller AF.
And also, let's be real, you drew a blonde woman and named it Steve's wife.
Yes. Oh, yes. That was pretty baller. Steve's Loretta is definitely blonde. Sorry, Loretta.
Dwayne's gonna pay for that one for the next 20 years.
Yep.
So you know, one of the questions that we kind of build this thing out because we sort of have conversations. You know, we all hang out. We're all friends. Quote marks, friends. We all enjoy each other's company, and you know, you have these conversations. One of these things we talk about is like, you know, how cool would it be if you could, you know, in our cyberpunk future, if the Ripper Doc could come in and like take memories out of your head, and give you the opportunity to play a game again, you know, for the first time and have that experience that you had, you know, your first, you know, game experience. You know, what's the 2020 game that you would say, yeah, strip that out because I just want to play that again. I want to have that experience again. Dan, what do you think?
Oh, yeah. So this one's a bit more off the beaten path. It was a game that released to Xbox Live Game Pass. That I got told by Don, rest in peace. Called Spiritfarer, where you're playing as the new ferryman of the dead, Karen. You're essentially the new Karen, and you're finding these souls, and they're all like anthropomorphized. Apparently, everyone's soul is a furry, according to this game. Little known fact, but all it is kind of like what's like I don't want to say diner dash. That's not the right way of putting it because there's definitely story elements to it. But you get people. You're actually building almost like a barge. You're like the bargeman of the dead. Multiple people will live on this barge at once, and they don't just move on. You don't take them to the other side. You kind of help them with their last rites almost. Their unfinished business. That's what I'm looking for. To get to the other side, you're trying to make them comfortable with being dead, and then moving them on to the afterlife. And the reason I would play this again, I didn't complete it, but there's a moment in the game. It's very early, and it's not even like a part of the game. It's just like a little nice thing you can do is you have a cat who's your friend. You died. You've now become the new bargeman of the dead, and your cat died with you and is in the afterlife with you.
Dear
And
God, what happened?
what was that?
Said,
I don't know.
Dear Lord, what happened?
You became the bargeman of the dead with your cat, and the cat is very cute. It's all hand drawn animated this game. And there's a moment where you can just like sit on your couch on the boat, and your cat will get up on your lap, and you can pet the cat, and it's very cute. And at that time, I was playing it. I was going through a pretty quarantine funk, depressing episode, and I was kind of spoilers taking a little bit more time off work that afternoon than I should have been to play this game, and not feeling too great. And my cat Greywind had hopped on my lap at the exact same time to watch me play this game. And so like that one moment, like I honestly I'm thinking about it just tearing up. Was just very moving to me. Just like this idle animation of you petting the cat as I was hanging out with my cat as he was helping me through a tough time. And I would like to experience that again. Hopefully with some as happier connotations, less of the depression, but just like being able to love my cat and love gaming at the same time.
All right, cat love. No, that sounds like, and
Fuck
I've heard a lot of
you.
good things about Spiritfarer too. Like, I mean, I've heard that that is a very sort of emotionally resonant and also what a good time, you know, like,
Mhm.
and uh, I've heard really good things about it. It's on my list to go back to, you know, when I have more time.
Yeah, it's also on my list. I heard it was pretty good. It sorry, it broaches the topic of death, and it makes people kind of talk about it, and kind of try to no one can really understand death, but it
In
makes
new
you
and
try.
exciting ways.
Yeah, it makes you think about it, and makes you kind of more aware of death, I guess, in a weird way, but in a good way, I guess, because all right, we
Yeah.
can move on here.
I mean, I would
Stop
definitely
talking
play
about
other
death.
games where you're the embodiment of Charon, as opposed to the embodiment of Karen, who needs to speak to the manager. Uh, Dwayne, what would you sort of want to go back to and have fresh eyes for?
Well, it was one of your favorite games of of the last year.
Demon Souls.
No, not
Oh,
quite. It
damn it!
starts with the same letter though.
I love it.
It would be Death Stranding,
Oh,
because
Game of the Year 2020.
I just love how creative. I mean, Hideo Kojima is just like, he's just, I mean, you guys already know he's just super creative, super like visionary. He just is like, he has an idea and he just like goes all the way in. And I think it really paid off with Death Stranding, because it's great. It's great. I mean, it's very different,
Yeah,
and it's very like engaging. Like, you're doing like little simple things, but at the same time it's like you're very engaged. Like, and even when you're playing the character, and you have the packages, like you're very worried that he's going to drop it or trip over something, and you're very concerned for him, and you kind of take a lot of interest in it. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a very well, like, it's a very different game, but it's just very well done, and you get very invested in it. It's like, this is really cool. I mean, the first time I played it, I didn't really. I mean, I saw the previews and stuff, so I kind of knew what it was about, but I didn't really know what to expect. And then when I started playing, like, this is great.
yeah.
Well, good news for you. There's a Cyberpunk 2077 DLC coming to Death Stranding this month.
Yeah,
You can play it with fresh new eyes and fresh new jank.
Never a better time to jump into Death Stranding than December of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that choice. You know, I like Death Stranding a lot. I think for me, I would not. I did play it again this year, actually.
So get to your actual answer then, Jay. Move on.
No, I refuse. I'm going to walk that path for a very long time, I think. But for me, I think that, you know, I guess 2020 games, if you're going to. I was going to say something else. And I think now, instead, thinking about it, I'm going to say Demon Souls. Like, there's an aspect of Demon Souls that, and all of the Soulsborne's games that I love once I know them at a very deep level. You know, like once I've played, literally, guys, don't look at my Steam history to see how much of those games I've played, because A, it's not complete, but also it's incredibly shameful. I've played easily hundreds, if not 1,000 hours of the original Dark Souls. I've probably played the same amount of Dark Souls 3. And at that level, like, I can do a run through speed run of that game, never looking at anything, and remember where all the items I want are and stuff like that. So same for Demon Souls. I haven't played that as much as the other games, but I played it a lot. I know everything that's going to happen. I know that if I play through it, I'm like, oh, right, I want to do a magic build, so I need to go get this sword because this sword scales on intelligence and it's over here. And I actually know that I can very early cheat and just go into that level and run past all the enemies, get the item, and die because it's Demon Souls. And if I don't take any souls and I don't care, then I'll just go and I'll have this cool sword. And that stuff's neat, but like, really, there's nothing for me like the very first time that you're playing a Souls game and you're like, I do not know what is happening. I do not know where to go. I have 20,000 souls on me, and it would be great if I could find a bonfire right now because I would prefer not to die. Oh, good, a werewolf just jumped out and killed me, and now I'm fucked. Like, that experience, like, and there's something else to this, and we talked about it earlier tonight where we were talking about Animal Crossing, right? And there's something about the experience of Animal Crossing that made it so much better because you knew 20 people that were playing that game, and we're all talking about it in Discord. And there's something about the Souls game that has always been that way. There's this community experience of we're all discovering stuff, and you're going on Reddit, and some guy's like, dude, if you do this thing, this guy's got a secret hidden quest that, you know, 20 hours later he'll show up and give you this item, and you're like, oh shit, that's amazing. That's the stuff that in the Dark Souls games I no longer have. Like, there's nothing in there that surprises me. I'm like, yes, I know exactly how to do this 19-step really ridiculous thing to get this cool thing at the end of it. And that discovery process has always been the best part of those games. So I think for me, if I could just, man, if you could wipe Demon Souls out of my brain, strong risk I would never play it because I would have the same experience I had before, which is get 2 levels in and be like, fuck this giant spider. I'm not fighting him anymore. And I'm returning this game. But if I could get through that, you know, that discovery of that game is really cool to me. And it's some of the best part of those games to me. And that's the thing that I would do. You know, I would go back and play Demon Souls again. So let's go the other way. The things that, you know, didn't excite us so much in 2020. You know, what are you coming out of 2020 going like, you know, biggest regret, biggest disappointment, not regret, biggest disappointment in 2020 for you? I'm talking, I'll go first. Mine's a real quick one. I bought Half-Life Alyx. I have the equipment on which to play it, and I haven't touched it. And I should. I want to.
Shame.
It's very big shame. You know, ring the bell, say it loud.
Shame.
Didn't work for me this year. It's on the list. I'm going to get to it. But yeah, disappointment. I'm disappointed in myself. I'm not mad, but I am disappointed. I didn't play Half-Life Alyx this year because it is allegedly everything it's supposed to be. So, you know, that's me. You know, Dwayne, how about you? I love your answer.
Just you know, just to be fair here, I only played the beta, but Marvel's Avengers was, you know, a bit of a disappointment. I mean, I feel like there was only so much they can do with it. I was hoping it would be somewhat, you know, enjoyable, but just off the beta, it was just like I can already see where this is going, and I'm just, I mean, it could be. Yeah, it could be. I guess it could be like sort of fun with friends, especially if you get the game at like a discount, like maybe 15 bucks, and you can play with a couple
$10,
of your friends.
$5.
Yeah, like $5 even.
Seven
You
nickels.
got some friends and you guys are bored. Say, hey, let's boot up Avengers and play for a little bit. Sure, that could be fun, but even just like playing by yourself or playing with randos, it's just like I'd rather do something else, honestly.
Where that beta was more like testing like the server capacity, like we were
Right.
pretty much the game and that I agree, it wasn't that great.
Right. I just felt like I guess they just didn't have a lot of time to do what they wanted and just had to just kind of
Listen, we're not here to make excuses.
Right.
We're disappointed. Do it
Also,
better.
that game got delayed
games.
twice, so they had plenty of fucking time.
Do it better, video games.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, what do you got?
Well, if we're sticking in terms of like something you didn't do, at the end of last year, I said I was going to play Control this year. I didn't. I mean, I played like an hour of it, but after everything you talked about with the RTX, and I can't get RTX despite NVIDIA being like, oh, there's an RTX patch for the 1000 series cards. It doesn't fucking work. It doesn't fucking work.
I bet it's amazing.
So it's garbage. Yeah. So I'm holding off on Control until I get an RTX card. But in terms of games I did play, Resident Evil 3 Remake is my biggest disappointment of the year, because Resident Evil 2 last year was my favorite game of the year, and I was very excited to see what they were going to do with it. And then it was just this shorter experience. It wasn't as tight. It wasn't as good looking. Like zombies in one part of the game despawn like a N64 GoldenEye match. Like they just fall to the ground and then fade away. Whereas in the other game, like you killed a zombie like 3 hours ago, you go back, that zombie's still gonna be fucking there. I'm like, why is this a change? And then when I actually like looked into, because much like Resident Evil 2, I didn't play Resident Evil 3 on the PS1. They made a lot of changes, which I looked into. I'm like, I understand them. I think Dwayne, you mentioned earlier the streamlining process of it. You don't want to have multiple choice gameplay when you're doing a lot of motion capturing, when you're doing a lot of scripted dialogue, but also like they changed how you fight Nemesis, and they changed how they took out an entire level of the game. And it's just like, well, what was the issue? Was it a time crunch? But in the end, it made it, I think, more of a subpar product compared to its predecessor the year before. So that's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, not for the better, changes. That's a bummer. All right, so in 2020, I think we discovered that the president of video games is Don Video Games.
R.I.P.
No, that's a different Don.
That's a different Don.
Oh.
Don Video Games is just the Donald.
There's
Video
a president
Games.
name who's Don. There's a Don who's dead, and then there's President Don Video Games.
President Donald Video Games. Yeah. But as all good things come to an end, President Donald Video Games has left the building, and you are president of video games for the day. What 2020 video game do you take your magic marker to and say, you know what, guys, this didn't exist. You're not allowed to make this video game. It's going in the trash. Damn.
Bug Snacks. Get it out of there. Get it the fuck out of there.
No Bug Snacks for Dan.
I had no interest in it when I saw it at the PlayStation experience. Everyone was like, oh my god, Bug Snacks. That's so cute and wild and weird and quirky. I'm like,
you don't want to be a bug and a snack?
That looks... Let me tell you something. Do you mind if I spoil something?
Oh, no.
That's the twist. The Bug Snacks are the Borg, and you will become a Bug Snack if you keep catching Bug Snacks. There you go. Sorry, gamers. I figured that out in the first 10 minutes, and they treat it like it was this huge twist. But I saw that game at the experience, and I went, that looks like shit, but everyone else was going, that looks great, so I thought maybe I'm the outlier, but I'm like, I just won't play it. And they're like, you get it for free with the PS5, and I already beat Miles Morales, like I said, so why not? I booted it up, beat it in 10 hours, caught all the Bug Snacks, and went, well, that was a piece of shit, so get it out of there.
Wow. All right, Bug Snacks, no more for this world. Dwayne, do you hate Bug Snacks?
No, it's a lot of something more rooted in reality. I'm just going to preface this. I love the NBA. I'm a big NBA fan, but I feel like NBA 2K21 should just not even exist this year until they make some serious changes. Because I didn't buy a copy, but I've known people that bought copies, and they're like, why did I buy this? I'm like, why did you buy it? did you even look at like a review or what anybody was saying about it? People, they're just saying it's just the same, and it's just a lot of invasive type of microtransactions, and like now you have to watch ads that you can't skip, and it's just. But I feel like this is kind of what happens when there's no competition. It's just there's nobody to challenge them, so they can just do whatever they want, and like, hey, you take it or you leave it, and it's like, just screw it, just leave it there until they make a good game. I mean, stop buying it. Stop buying all the microtransactions. Stop buying all the bullshit. Just don't buy it. I mean, I remember. I'm not gonna harp on this, but I remember back in what was the NBA like 2K11 or 10, like way back in PS3 days. It was. They even had like a little thing where you could add like music to the arenas. Like you can put MP3s on your PlayStation and you can have that music playing in the arena, kind of like you're in a real, like this little stuff like that was just so cool. And I feel like there's not a lot of that going on no more. Like they add little things every year, but there's just nothing to like be like, wow, this feels good, or wow, this is, it's just like it's like a copy paste type of game now. And it's just like, come on, do something good.
It feels like a long time since licensed sports games have really been
Done
doing
anything,
things
right?
that we enjoyed, new from year to year, right?
No, it's true. It's true.
All right, Bucksnax and NBA 2K21 forever on the pile of those didn't happen. And my same answer as Dwayne, in that I only played the beta of this, and that was enough for me to know Avengers needed to never happen. That's a franchise you could do something with. That's a franchise they even probably could have done something with that game, but
they did. It was called Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1, 2, and 3.
Listen, I'm not a fan of those games either. I hope people like them, whatever. Hey man, I hope somebody out there, if you paid your money on Avengers, I hope you liked it. But when you're making microtransaction games almost from the ground up nowadays, it seems like you're ruining the rest of what could be a good thing. I would love to play games with my friends. I would love to play a 4-player game with my friends where I can be the Hulk, because I love the Hulk. He's awesome. And that game was hot garbage, not fun for 3 hours or whatever we played. I didn't have a minute of fun other than we were playing with us. And it was obviously, that was beta. I'm not going to get into the jankiness and the server stuff, because I'm sure it was fine once that game launched and nobody was actually playing it. But I just want to remove it from the lexicon. I want somebody to start over, and next time somebody's like, we're making an Avengers game, I'll be like, sweet, man. And I can maybe feel excited about it, because I'm not going to feel excited about like an Avengers game for, I don't know, right after I feel excited about a Mass Effect game next. It's just going to be a while, because they did me dirty. So, hey, we were disappointed. We pulled some games out of 2020. Let's turn it around. 2020 has been a real effort of a year. It brought a lot of complications to probably everyone's lives to varying degrees. For some of us, it was a good year to just dive into video games sometimes when we had the motivation and just do something that wasn't not video games, right? So, what did you guys do this year when you were like, man, I just need a guilty pleasure 2020, something to do. This is my video game escape. What did you do? I don't know, pick somebody. Whoever wants to go.
Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, okay. Well, Super Mario 3D All-Stars was my pick for this. One, I'm guilty. I feel guilty of it because Nintendo has been very almost anti-consumer this year. If you remember all the news with Pikmin 3 on the Wii U and the Switch, where it was like $20 on the Wii U, and then it came out on the Switch for $60, but it wasn't like an enhanced version. It was just the Wii U version. It's just a big shitty move there. And then everything with 3D All-Stars being a limited release. You're not going to be able to buy it after March. They're going to stop making that game. Very Disney Vault-esque, which is also very anti-consumer. But at the same time, I collect physical media of video games. I'm trying to stop that moving forward. I got the digital version of the PlayStation 5 to stop that. Like, okay, Generation 9 of video games is it. That's it. No more collecting. But I was like, all right, I got to get this game. Went out and bought it. It's, just ports. It's not any sort of enhanced version. It's just base ports with a soundtrack. But I still love Super Mario 64. I still love Super Mario Galaxy. I think that's a very, 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 very good title that not a lot of people have played but have heard about good things about it. Never played Sunshine before. Played it this time. It's all right. It controls radically different because of the flood backpack. But a lot of the guilt from this one is just more so in me purchasing it than the actual games. I did spend a lot of time going into it, and I did beat Galaxy 100% for the first time, which I've never done before, because the controls on the Switch are so much easier than waggling a dangly Wiimote controller. So, guilty pleasure 2020.
Nice. Dwayne.
All right. I did have something different written down for this, but I'm gonna go ahead and just change it now, and I'm gonna say Far Cry New Dawn.
Wow, that's left field.
Yeah, because I mean,
Excellent.
I'll say this. It's not. It is sort of an expansion of Far Cry 5, and it's not really good. But for some reason, I just kind of like booting it up and just kind of going around the world and just kind of doing whatever outposts and whatever missions. I think I'm almost done with it, honestly. It's not I wouldn't recommend it, not unless you really like Far Cry, but it's just one of those things. It's just one of those games that I kind of like to just mess around with once in a while. Yeah, I know this wasn't originally planned, but I was just thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna say Far Cry New Dawn.
I love
So
it.
yeah,
I love the in
there
the
you go.
moment when you think about it, you're like, what did I have fun that was stupid as shit this year that I was playing it? Like that was the point of this category, right? I was like, what the hell did I do this year when I was just like, I need just something stupid to do or something that's just gonna kind of like, whatever.
Mhm.
And for me, so it's funny because the way I was thinking about it was I obviously loved Death Stranding last year. We've had conversations since that day about how passionate apparently I am about Death Stranding, and not a perfect game in any way, shape, or form, but the playing of that game was so much fun, and it was coming out on PC this year. Came out on PC this year, and I got it, and I like to play games sometimes with cheat engine and be like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this game's bullshit. I want $7 million or I want, unlimited life, whatever. And Death Stranding was a game that, between mods and trainers or cheat engine or whatever, like I have no weight limitations. So go play Death Stranding when you can't fall down. It's the ballerest shit ever. As you were just like, that's my baller gaming moment in 2020 is running full speed over rocks and tripping the whole time, but never actually falling down because you're using a cheat. Yeah, that was I had a lot of time, I played back through Death Stranding, but I did it without any of the bull crap. I did it without like, okay, I can only carry this much weight. I'm like, no, I got a stack of, a ridiculously unrealistic, more so than it ever was, stack of 200 feet high packages. I'm like, me and all these packages are going to the next town. We're going to max out that guy on our first trip, and I'm going to build these roads without having to, cart 2,000 pounds of steel out to them or whatever. Like, so yeah, that was I had a lot of fun in Death Stranding this year, but cheating my way back through that game, that was pretty cool.
If I can add an honorable mention on top of these almost honorable mentions
The
in
Don
terms of guilty
Miller
pleasure.
Memorial Guilty Pleasure 2020 title, please do.
Sure, Doritos Crash Course for the Xbox 360. It's a game that it was introduced to me by another contributor of the site, Steve Lane, many, 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 many years ago, where we were trying to do a Halo night, because we've been doing this Halo retrospective over the last couple of years on Legendary mode of all the games. And there was a 90 gig patch update for something, and we just couldn't download it. And we're like, what do we have together that we can play? Oh, we still have Doritos Crash Course. And we got high and made a night of that, and it was a grand old time.
Before you go on, just real quick, I want to just squeeze one more in here.
To the honorable mention, Don Miller, whatever we called this.
Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah.
That is totally a guilty pleasure title because they've been adding stuff to it. They added the Aftermath DLC, which I played. It's fun. Good. I like it. It's a definitely good guilty pleasure going in there and just knocking people around, doing fatalities. It's a nice stress reliever. That's it.
Cool. So we're getting ready to head off into the sunset relatively shortly. Last thing we're going to do before we do that is, not summarize, but, pick a game, say it out into the ether, recommend this game, hey, it's 2020. This is a 2020 game. As we get through the end of the year into next year, this is the game you should play. Go out there and play this game. I'll just say mine really quick. I talked about it earlier. Umurangi Generations. I think it's, it's bite-size-ish. It's got a cool storytelling mechanism, and it'll make you think about stuff outside of the game, and I think that that was a really cool thing for me this year. I highly recommend it. I think it's probably only on PC, so maybe that's a limiter, but don't care. That's the game. Go out and get it. Deuces to everybody. Nobody else's games matter. No, Dan, what's your game? Recommend the game.
A lot of the games I talked about today, some of them needed to be like you had to be in the right time or the right place to experience them, like Animal Crossing. Phasmophobia, I feel like still has a lot of potential. We're definitely going to go back to it. I definitely think it's something that if you have 3 friends who have a computer, it doesn't need to be that powerful of a machine. You can get in this game, have some fun times with some janky ass ghosts. And just go pick it up. It's not going to get like too much better. First off, it's not going to be some sort of high tier game, but it's a definitely fun experience that I think everyone should have. Go check it out.
I'm gonna say for my game, recommended game, definitely check out of Ghost of Tsushima for the PlayStation 4. The only reason I didn't have it, in my recommended games earlier, because I feel like I haven't played enough of it to really talk about it, but I've played enough to where I feel like it's a great game, and I feel like I can recommend to people that if you like that whole samurai type of vibe, it's definitely great. I love the all the abilities he can do and the story and everything. I like it a lot. It's very, very, I dig it. It's good.
Yeah, very, very close to one of my shame games of the year. If I didn't play enough of it, I just fell off of it, and I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to it, but it's definitely well done. Definitely well done. Looks beautiful. Looks like a lot of really cool gameplay elements. I opened up a map, and it's one of those maps where there's 9 billion things on it. And I think Danny said it, like, this year more than any year has been about, is this the right time for this thing for me? And that day when I opened up that map, I was like, nope, not today. And just haven't gone back. So, not the game's fault. That's on me. But yeah, I think that's a great recommendation. Also, Don Miller, may he rest in peace, loves that game.
Yeah,
he platinumed it before he died.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, it was like 10 seconds before he died. I think it was just like the trophy sound pinged, and then he was on the floor and no longer with us. He's an angel now.
He's an angel.
Yes. Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. Our game of the year 2020.
And with that, we are wrapped up on Limited Bandwidth's Year of Games 2020. Some of the games we talked about, as Jay was saying, Ghost of Tsushima, maybe we'll go experience them in 2021 in full and talk about them then. Because as you know, this isn't about the games in 2020. It's about the games we played. It's about the games you played. It's about the games that just matter to us in these months, regardless of if it's a year like 2019 where nothing was happening. It was literally a non-starter of a year versus 2020, which is a complete dumpster fire of a year. So we hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully you can experience on all services, and we hope that you subscribe to us on YouTube, on Spotify, on SoundCloud, on Twitch, and we'll be back next year with the Year of Games 2021. This is Dan, Jay, and Dwayne. We hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Goodbye.